the line before they head off to America for their pre-season tour.
If you're one of those Arsenal fans who signed a petition to stop the club signing Noni Madueke, this Arsenal legend says that's pathetic.
You can't do that. I think that's wrong. I really do. You give him a chance. He's a young 23-year-old. He's England. He's got in the England squad. Can play either wing. He's versatile. Yeah. So I'm against that, if I'm being honest.
Either way, it's not worked. The deal's over the line and Madueke signed a 5-year deal with the club. Ahead of that undisputed heavyweight bout at Wembley between Alexander Usyk and Daniel Dubois, Frank Warren reckons Dubois learnt vital lessons from his defeat to the champion back in 2023.
I think the most important thing is him mentally maturing.
That late, but also the size of Dubois, we keep saying it as that late, but also the size of Dubois, we keep saying it as a compliment and as a plus. Mm-hmm. The size also has a lot of lactic acid will kick in once he's carrying that big frame.
You can listen to live coverage of that huge heavyweight clash right here on talkSPORT Saturday night. And after world number one Scotty Scheffler admitted he sometimes wonders what's the point of winning golf, how's this landed with his tour mates? Well, JJ Spawn, who's just won the US Open, said Scotty's got a point.
I believe there's some truth behind Scotty's words, for sure. You know, yeah, you do have these high aspirations, these dreams to accomplish things in golf at the highest level, and then you do, and it happens so quick, and then you're so elated, and then all of a sudden it's like, now what?
Remember, you'll be able to hear all the action from the Open tomorrow live over on talkSPORT 2.
Good evening, how are we? This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. I'm your host, Max Scott, and I'm alongside Flex for the next 3 hours. We've got absolutely loads to get through. But first, Steve Parish says he's been led to believe that my beloved Nottingham Forest are the reason Crystal Palace have been demoted from the Europa League. Not the fact that they've breached multi-club ownership rules. Is he right? Or is he ducking responsibility elsewhere? Is there actually a world where Liverpool break the British record transfer fee again in the same window and bring Alexander Isak to Anfield? Well, it looks like if they don't, they could well just go after Newcastle's number one target, Hugo Ekitike, instead. Big flex from the champions there. Different story for Flex's Manchester United. Their pursuit of Brian Mbeumo still dragging on. The club say they won't be panicked into paying over the odds for him. Manchester United fans do appreciate the patient and pragmatic approach, or should your club just get a move on, pay an extra couple of million and get that over the line? And of course, we'll be delving deeper into the Arsenal. They're making some moves, aren't they, trying to keep up with Liverpool? Gyökeres looks close, Madueke signed on the dotted line, and now they're turning their attention to Eberechi Eze. Gooners, is this going to be your year? Let's get into it. This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. Right, Flex, how are we, mate?
I'm good. I'm slowly coming around to understanding and remembering that I have to start watching my football team, Manchester United, again, because pre-season starts.
And you're off to America.
On Saturday, off to America, off to Sweden first. Got to take care of that first. Then the tour starts next week in New Jersey. But yeah, we're playing Leeds United. In Sweden.
That's exactly. A tasty old pre-season affair.
So, especially when when off the back of finishing 15th, I just know the scrutiny on these pre-season games is going to be huge.
And of course, you're going to be playing Leeds, obviously a historic arch rival. And as I hear it, United aren't going to be giving any pre-match gift to Leeds in their cost-cutting exercises.
Mate, we've got to save where we can.
Got to save that 20 quid back.
The night that he's got to go.
Yeah,
they got to go.
Fair play. Well, look, we're going to delve a lot deeper as you're here into United a little bit later on in the show. But just give us a bit of an overview about how you're feeling. I mean, about the transfer window. You've got Cunha in, who looks like, I think he could be a real sort of like mercurial talent. But that's about it. So is it a bit of a damp squib?
It is. We got the young kid Diego Leon. We got him in, the young Paraguayan who's coming, but that's very much one for the future. I'm not going to lie, Max. I try to keep calm in these situations. I don't like being sensationalist.
And it's still early doors as well.
And it still is early doors. However, I'll be lying to you if I said I'm completely okay with where we're at. We haven't done enough by this time. Things can change very quickly in the transfer window, but they're not changing very quickly in terms of Brian and Mbeumo, are they? And I know we're going to talk about that a lot more and show more depth. But I'm concerned because, mate, we finished 15th.
How do you think Amorim's feeling as well? Because the whole shtick was, Amorim, we're going to get you in mid-season, but we'll back you pre-season. And as you say, there's still a lot of time left. So we can't judge Ineos. We can't judge the whole situation fully just yet. But I would imagine he's starting to think, hold on a minute, like, when are we going to get more through the door?
Not going to fill him with confidence, is it? Like, at the end of the day, yes, he's got improvements to make himself as a coach to ensure that he keeps his job and we end up going in the right direction, which I really hope he can do that and behind the manager. But in terms of he needs new players. He needs players that are going to come in and help transform this thing. What we've got is, the naughty list of players who are not allowed to be there anymore and only one new face. Yeah. So how much improvement can Manchester United fans be expecting at this stage when we're about to play our first game of pre-season, when we're supposed to be becoming embedded with the Ruben Amorim style? Because he said so many times during last season, need more time on the training field. Well, now we've got that, but we don't have any new players. So what we expect to see different. Worrying times.
It is worrying times. I mean, you talk about the sort of confusion that there'll be in the squad. I think certainly at Forest with sort of Morgan Gibbs-White looking like he's still, going to be out the door. We're going to be getting an update from Ben Jacobs on that later on. I think we're hearing that Forest are trying to table a really lucrative offer. And then obviously Anthony Elanga out the door. Forest still don't know what European competition they're going to be in. I certainly feel a bit like you that I've got those nerves about, are we going to replace those players? How are we going to look next season? Yeah,
it's a way where we do it as fans, don't we? Where we're like, we know we need improvement. Yeah. It's the most exciting time of the off season. But you did just mention their European football. At least that's nice to say, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's nice. At least
first time
you've been booking flights because Forest. At the minute, you could be getting a little bump up, mate.
We could be.
Yeah,
I mean,
bump up to business class or something.
Some of my mates, when we got for the Conference League, the finals in Leipzig, some of them already booked their flights, so they're going to
get the free cancellations going.
Well, that looks like it's going to be the case. Of course, you'll have seen the scenes last night. Crystal Palace protesting outside Selhurst Park. Of course, they've been demoted to the Conference League, swapping places with my Forest. Look, I won't have my say on this because I will say from the very get-go, Flex, I disagree with those rules. I think it's unfair on Crystal Palace. It's a rich history that the winner of the FA Cup gets put into the Europa League. As a Forest fan, I'd prefer to be in the Conference League because at the amount of players we're shipping at the minute, I think we've got a much better chance of going far in the Conference League. But from a sporting integrity point of view, I also think Palace deserve that place. The rules are ridiculous, but they exist. And, I've seen that Steve Parish has been on Gary Lineker's podcast earlier today, where he said that he's been led to believe that if Forest didn't want to get in, didn't send a letter to UEFA, then there wouldn't be a problem. And that, for me, that is just absolutely ridiculous. Does Steve Parish seriously believe that after UEFA have already booted out sides like Drogheda, another Slovakian side, for breaching multi-club ownership rules, that they'd have let Palace in if it wasn't for a letter from Nottingham Forest? And it just reeks to me of somebody that's refusing to take ownership for the fact that they've overseen what has been a catastrophic mistake in not sorting out and not addressing the multi-club ownership rules. And I just sort of feel as a Forest fan, I understand Evangelos Marinakis, he's the pantomime villain. He's unorthodox and he upsets the apple cart. He bans Gary Neville from the City Ground. And I understand that rubs people up the wrong way. But you can't blame him for the fact that you've been demoted to the Conference League. It just strikes me as someone that's trying to find a scapegoat for and cover up for the fact that ultimately they didn't do anything about it. In the same podcast, Parish admitted that he wasn't even aware of the multi-club ownership deadline changing to March the 1st. That's your job. Yeah. You're at the top. You've got to oversee those things. And I know that, around the round of 16 when they were playing Millwall, you couldn't, of course, predict that they were going to go all the way. But surely if you're ambitious and you're the owner of a top institution of a great football club like Palace, you need to prepare for all eventualities. So I just think it's absolutely ridiculous that the owner of another football club is being blamed for the mistakes of the owner themselves. Now, our very own Simon Jordan has rather uncharacteristically, as you can imagine, given his opinion on who's to be blamed for Crystal Palace's relegation to the Conference League.
I would suggest that everybody's changed because the dynamics have changed. This is not UEFA's fault, and people might think I've got a motivation here. I think Parish has done a remarkable job at times, irrespective of my own personal relationship with him. I think the club have been more successful under his tenure than ever under mine and under Ron's previous to him. So you have to give him all of the chops for that. This is on him. This is on Palace. This is not a rule that hasn't been around for 17 years. This isn't a rule that wasn't reinforced in 2017 with the RB case. Everyone understood the parameters of it. This isn't a rule that was dropped into an anonymous info box at Crystal Palace. This is the same rule that was dropped in alongside other rules via the Premier League, via UEFA, that Crystal Palace have responded to previously. This is on Parish and the other members of the board. And if people think I've got an agenda to say that, I don't. I don't want Palace to be in this situation. Ironically, there's a part of me that believes by being in the European Conference League, it'll be better for Palace because it might give them an opportunity to have 2 seasons in Europe because they could quite meaningfully win this competition.
Simon Jordan, I think, echoing my sentiments as well. Now, look, Simon will be accused of being biased because he used to own the club. I'll be accused of being biased because I'm a Forest fan. But look, Flex, you don't have a dog in this fight. What do you make of Parish claiming essentially that if Forest hadn't complained or written to UEFA, they'd still be in the Europa League? Like, what do you make of that?
It's misguided, and I do 100% agree with the sentiment that you're basically looking for a scapegoat other than yourself. You know, if you're in control of the football club, you are supposed to know exactly what the goings-ons are. You're supposed to know exactly what the rules are. And as Simon said there, this isn't something that's just been magicked up halfway through the season. Like this is the rules are the rules. And look, it's not exactly the same, but the principle remains. It's almost like when United and Spurs were having their shocking seasons in the Premier League, the more it started to be apparent they would probably get to the final. Yeah. All of a sudden, because I started losing my head a little bit, right? It became, I tell you what, having second thoughts, those guys shouldn't get to go to the Champions League. You know what? Yeah. But at the beginning of the season, before a ball was kicked, if Man United got relegated, whoever got relegated, but if they were in European competition, guess what? You're going to be in the Champions League next year. Yeah. That's how it goes. Yeah. That is the rules. You can't just change it because the narrative of the season is different. So that's a slightly different way of saying it, but the principle remains the same. The rules are the rules. And I think when everybody's angry, when you look at Marinakis as well, 100%, because of his character, because he's combustible, because he's fiery, because he will upset the apple cart, and he is a big character, and he's taken on the PGMOL when Forest were sort of talking about refereeing decisions. Gary Neville got banned from the stadium. That situation that happened with Nuno after Awani's injury, which I think was overblown as well. But you see him sort of put his head above the parapet quite a lot. He's not afraid to speak his mind. He's an easy target for me. He's just being loud, and he almost like the kid in the class who keeps running to go and tell the teacher. It's him. Nobody likes that kid. No, absolutely. I think if I was a Forest fan in this situation, I 100% agree with you. If anything, you've got a better chance at winning the Conference League. It's not about that. People just want to see the rules adhered to. Whatever the rules are, just adhere to it. And I think for Palace fans, 100%, I understand the frustration. I really, really, really thought that when this was first becoming a situation, I thought, they'll sort that out. They'll sort this out. And it just became apparent that wasn't possible. So unfortunately, that's the law of the land.
Yeah, I'll reiterate. I think the rules are absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. But to then go and blame another owner of another football club for what have been your failures that have impacted your fans. If I was Will Smith, keep my owner's name out your mouth.
Exactly.
I mean, to be fair, he hasn't named him, but he's obviously the suggestion is that it's Nottingham Forest because they're the only club that have benefited from it. Yeah. I think it's a really sad indictment of the rules, but them's are the rules. Right. Palace fans, Forest fans, get in touch. Is Steve Parish right? Do you agree? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Who is to blame for the fact that Crystal Palace have been demoted? Let us know. Get in touch. 03717 22 3344. Get your messages in 81089. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes 18+B, gambleaware.org. Good evening, this is the Transfer Insiders with me, Max Scott, alongside Flex. We're going to continue that conversation around Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace and the big soap opera that's unfolding regarding Europa League and Conference League. We'll also be hearing from Ben Jacobs. He's got some fantastic transfer news coming your way as well. But first, remember, of course, it is the Women's Euros and the first quarter-final is about to get underway. Ian Abraham's got the team news.
Yes, and this will decide who plays England if they get to the semi-final, if they beat Sweden on Thursday, tomorrow even live on talkSPORT and get to the semi-final, because the winner of this will play England in the last four. The team news is pretty simple as far as Norway are concerned. They were always going to bring back their star player Hegerberg, and she does return up front. Guro Reiten of Chelsea is also in the Norwegian starting lineup, one of 5 changes from their win over Iceland. It was the first time ever that Norway had won all 3 games in the group stage at a Euros, and they were the first country to qualify. As for Italy, 3 changes from the side that beat Spain played Spain rather in their last game to qualify for the quarter-finals as well. The game being played tonight from 8 o'clock, and as I say, it will decide who plays England or Sweden in the semi-finals of the European Championships. It's Norway against Italy.
UEFA Women's Euro 2025 update on talkSPORT with McDonald's. Got Big McDonald's hunger? The new Big Arch is here. Available from 11 a.m. at participating restaurants.
Ian Abraham's there giving us all the team news ahead of that massive quarter-final in the Women's Euros. He'll be keeping us up to date throughout the show on what's going on there. But time now to get an odds update with Ladbrokes.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Supercharge your odds with our Odds Boost button. Selected markets applies to first £50 of stake. Terms apply. 18+. Gambleaware.org.
Delighted to welcome in my second favourite, Chris Wood. It's not the double-hard Kiwi striker, but it is Chris Wood from Ladbrokes. How are you, Chris?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. I just had to send my son out of the room because he's a Palace fan. So,
oh no,
yeah, he's got some fairly strident views.
No, I'm sure he does. But we'll go back to what the Moose was reporting on. I mean, we've got Norway against Italy. What are the odds on that?
Yeah, so currently just got Italy, very slight favourites there. They're in at 6-4. The draw's in at 9-4, and Norway at 15-8. I think obviously quite high scoring games for Norway in the group stages, but Italy are really, really tough nut to break down. They didn't allow Portugal to have a shot on goal until the last 10 minutes. I think they had 1 shot on goal until the last 10 minutes when they were throwing everything at it to stay in there. I think under 1.5 goals at 19-10 is all right. Under 2.5 at 4-6. But I think the sort of the lower positive Italy scorelines are possibly the way to go there. Italy to win 1-0 at 13-2 looks okay. Italy to win 2-0 at 10-1. Main goal threats there obviously Ada Hegerberg for Norway. She's in at 5-1 to score the first goal, 15-8 any time. And Girelli for Italy. I think she started the last game as sub, but she's starting today. She's 13-2 and 27-10 any time.
Chris, what are we looking at for outrights as well? Because going to be difficult to look past Spain, I should imagine, of course. But
no,
the Lionesses, of course, want to retain the trophy. So what are we looking at outrights?
Yeah, they're the 2 favourites. Spain are just a shade of odds on at 5-6. Obviously been massively impressive so far. England though in at 7-2. Draws opened up nicely for them. Obviously, France are next in at 7-1. England's opponents in the next round, Sweden at 9-1 after their decent win against Germany, and Germany themselves in at 12-1. Obviously got a very tough route through to the final now.
Brilliant stuff. Now, I know this is very early doors, but we can't help but talk about the Premier League. I mean, for me, I think next season, with all of the sort of business that the top clubs are doing, you look at what Liverpool have done, even potential to bring in someone like Isak or Ekitike after getting Wirtz. You've got City have spent hundreds of millions since January. Arsenal getting Gyökeres through the door, maybe even Eze. Ben Jacobs will be updating us on that in a minute. I don't think we're going to have a season, Chris, where we see it disrupted as much as it was last season. But in terms of the early odds for the winner of the Premier League, are Liverpool leading that? What are the outright odds?
Yeah, Liverpool are just slight fads. They're at 11-5. I mean, if they got Isak through the door, it'd just be absolutely unbelievable.
Game over.
Well, that price would obviously shorten a lot. Arsenal were next in at 9-4, but I think we've taken a lot more on Liverpool than Arsenal at the moment. Although I think Arsenal have signed quite well so far. But yeah, City are next in at 11-4. Chelsea obviously coming off the back of a decent Club World Cup, but they've shortened so much. They're into 15-2, and it's just basically off the back of one game. I think that looks short enough. I think that'll drift back out. Newcastle at 28-1. Man U in at a crazily short 33-1. I just cannot.
It's possible. You never know. One game a week, mate.
I cannot see that at all. But, hey, fair play. Spurs are 50s and Villa are 66-1.
Brilliant stuff, Chris. That's absolutely fantastic. That's Chris Wood from Ladbrokes, and that was the very latest odds with Ladbrokes. 18+, begambleaware.org.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Supercharge your odds with our Odds Boost button. Selected markets applies to first £50 of stake. Terms apply. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Brilliant stuff. Right, we're continuing our conversation regarding Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest. Where is the blame to lie? From an earlier podcast between Steve Parish and Gary Lineker, he seems to be suggesting that if it wasn't for intervention from Nottingham Forest asking the question or suggesting that they should be bumped up because of a breach of multi-club ownership rules, Parish seems to think that they would still be in the Europa League. We've got a message in from Richard. He says, we know as Palace fans we've broken the rules, but big teams get just a fine for breaking far worse rules like Chelsea and Villa recently. We get kicked out. It's not a level playing field. That's the issue. Flex, I mean, I think that's a great point. There is this sort of optics problem where smaller clubs seem to get dished out, more severe punishment, whereas if you're wealthier and you have more global reach, maybe...
Yeah, favours the rich.
There is a little bit of an optics issue maybe with you.
Yeah, I do think... I see where he's coming from there in terms of how are they going to be dealt with compared to the bigger clubs. But you did mention that there was another club who've been thrown out of the competition.
Yeah, Drogheda
as well.
Yeah, Drogheda thrown out of the Conference League, and then DAC 1904 as well.
So what you can see, and that's for this round, isn't it? That's this season. So what you can see is that UEFA are dealing with it in the way that they should be if these breaches are found to have happened, which in Crystal Palace's case, it is. So I know, I can imagine for fans of smaller clubs, 100%, big club bias and the broadcasters or UEFA could be thinking, well, if it was a traditional top six team, the money they'd bring to the competition, so maybe let's be a little bit more lenient with them. I'm not naive enough to think that doesn't exist, but really with what we're seeing with the evidence is that UEFA are taking the steps just to adhere to the rules. Yeah. And again, you go back to how sad it is, but
it is really sad.
And the rule does need to be looked at where, you can clearly see, the goings-ons at Palace and who is the day-to-day, has the day-to-day control of the club. That shouldn't really mean that this should happen, so that needs to be looked at. But unfortunately, the letter of the law is that.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs, but the rules are the rules. Somia is a Forest fan. She's got in touch. Somia, what do you make of this? Who is to blame for this situation? Is it Marinakis? Is Parish right on that?
No, I don't think he is, to be honest with you. I'm not, I'm just trying to look at it impartially. Hi, guys. Nice listening to you. Good show, by the way.
Thanks for coming on.
I just feel like as a fan base, we're getting targeted a bit at the moment. To be honest with you, we don't know what our owner had put in the letter. Yeah. It was just to voice some concerns. And I think for him to have that podcast with Gary Lineker and say that, when really they should have got their own house in order and sorted what they needed to sort out, like our Mr. Marinakis did. And I think we're just a bit of an easy target. I was listening to you guys earlier, when you were saying that sometimes our owner's a little bit fiery, he's ambitious, we've had some furore around us in the past with PSR and point deductions and things. And I think you're right. I do think he gets targeted a little bit because obviously his personality, he's got a big personality. He's not afraid to be vocal about things. Obviously, we've got the Morgan Gibbs-White saga at the moment, and I do feel like it's kind of tainting us a little bit at the minute. But I don't think we're to blame at all for Crystal Palace. I do feel for the Crystal Palace fans and, the situation that they're in. And it isn't, they won the FA Cup fair and square, and it is a bit unfair that, they've been demoted down to the European Conference League. But we've earned our place because, the rules are the rules, and they didn't stick to the rules, basically.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Somia, there. And actually, when Somia was saying there that, just because he's a big character, it's easy to target that. Sometimes we see somebody who's confident and quite self-assured, and goes against the grain, and it puts a target on your back. Yeah. And I think that's exactly what's happened to Marinakis. And actually, I think he's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
I really do. If I was if I was a Forest fan, I'm seeing somebody who's 100% committed to the club, not just financially, but emotionally, wants the best, wants to succeed, and show that he's passionate about the project. And I just think he would defend Forest's honour at all times. Surely that's something you want to see somewhere.
Yes, yeah, Somi. I mean, I'd say that as a Forest fan, you know, I've been critical of him in the past about how he dealt with sort of PSR issues, but there's no doubt that Evangelos Marinakis backs the club and he's passionate about us going forward. And surely any fan, Somi, would be like, yeah, I want a bit of that.
Yeah, I am, and I'm glad. You know, I'm glad we've got him as an owner. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and he can't hide his emotions sometimes. You know, you've seen him at games where he's gotten a bit frustrated. The Everton game, you know, the Liverpool game where, you know, the incident happened right at the end where we you know, conceded a goal. I just feel like, yeah, he does get targeted. And actually, if it was the other way around and we were in that position, would Steve Parish have written a letter of concern?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, each to their own.
A letter or two. Really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Somi. Thanks so much for getting in touch. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. Right, we've covered that. We've done that. We've had our say.
Are you okay? Are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I just think, you know, just focus on yourself. What's the phrase? Like, take the plank out your own eye before you take the speck of dust out somebody else's. I just think, you know, just get on with it. And let's hope. And I hope that CAS overturn that rule, because I do think that the rules in and of themselves are ridiculous, but they exist and they've been broken. You are listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, Max Scott, alongside Flex. Next up, we're going to get the latest transfer update from Ben Jacobs.
Cricket balls are red, baseballs are white, American footballs are brown, and tennis balls are yellow. We don't even think about it really, but the story behind the tennis ball is actually quite interesting and even involves Sir David Attenborough. I know, here's the tale. Tennis has its roots in 12th century France when people used to make balls from all sorts. Cork, wool, chalk, animal fur and even human hair. Uniformity was found centuries later when people started making balls out of something called vulcanized rubber, invented in the US. But the balls kept on breaking, So a British lawyer, who also loved tennis, suggested they put a flannel covering on the outside, and thus the tennis ball as we know it was born. One problem, it was either white or black. And when the controller of BBC Two, Sir David Attenborough, decided Wimbledon would be shown in colour on the BBC in 1967, no one could actually see the balls on telly. So the International Tennis Federation went away and created a new colour called Optic Yellow, which would show up without the need for a 4K LED display. Not that anyone had that in the 1960s, of course. Since then, all tennis balls have been covered in that material and have their trademark colour for that exact reason. Amateur tennis players and dogs worldwide are forever grateful. You could say the
your whole life you've worked for this.
It's the pinnacle of our sport.
The shirt is bigger than any individual.
It's about, so much more than just playing the rugby.
Oh, beats the first, beats the second, he's over the 10-metre line. He's going towards the 22, he beats the fullback, he's going for the corner. George North, Redstop will get the George North scores the try!
For me, it's about the connections you make, the people you meet. Just to play for the Lions is huge. It's just coming on a Lions tour, I just thought was like the best thing since sliced bread.
You come together for 6 or 7 weeks and you almost become sort of best mates, really.
For me, one of the best experiences you can get in rugby.
Jamieson gives a puck, picks, goes round the edge, gives to Marrow, it's OJ who gets over the line. Lions have their 4th try of the evening.
As a British and Irish rugby player, this is what you dream of.
It's about bringing together a whole set of different players that you never ordinarily be together.
We just have this understanding that, the Lions jersey is still, I think, for a rugby player, the biggest thing you can wear, and the respect that goes with it.
Yeah, that one gets the juices flowing. It's finally here. The British and Irish Lions take on the Wallabies in the opening test of the series this Saturday, live and exclusively right here on talkSPORT in Brisbane, with coverage starting from 10 a.m. Shabana Hearns, your host. She'll be joined by former Lion Alex Cuthbert, as well as Wallabies all-time record try scorer David Campese, and your commentary team of former Lion Ben Kay and Andrew McKenna. It's the British and Irish Lions versus the Wallabies in the game we've all been waiting for, that all-important first test. Trust me, you do not want to miss that. Cannot wait. Saturday 11 a.m. Right, time now to look at the latest football action with Ladbrokes.
The big preview on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Supercharge your odds with our odds boost button. Selected markets applies to first £50 of stake. Terms apply. 18+. Gambleaware.org.
He's been waiting in the wings for a good few minutes now. Delighted to welcome in Ben Jacobs, talkSPORT's transfer report. How are you, Ben?
Good evening, gents. The background behind me is real, live from New York following the Club World Cup.
Lovely.
Busy times in the market.
What's the weather like, Ben? I'm coming out there on Wednesday.
Incredible. I mean, it was actually really hot and humid and sticky. It was a problem for the players, but in New York now, a bit of a breeze. So you've timed it right. You'll get perfect weather. Make sure you go to Katz and get yourself a Reuben sandwich and a bagel and Joe's Pizza as well.
I was just going to say Joe's Pizza, definitely. 100%.
I've never been to New York. I'd love to go.
Amazing.
And then seeing all the lads out there sort of reporting and stuff. Yeah, I need to go. Right, let's get into some transfer news now, Ben. I hear that you've got an update regarding Nicholas Jackson and Alejandro Garnacho. What's the latest?
Yeah, these are two players on Aston Villa's radar. Let's start with Garnacho. Manchester United are looking for an exit. Garnacho's preference is to stay in the Premier League. Nothing has developed with Napoli, despite the fact in January they were seriously looking at that as a possibility. United's asking price has been around £60 million. I think the likes of Villa and other potential suitors feel it may drop as the window goes on. And Villa, of course, are looking to strengthen on the left side. And the difference between Rashford and Garnacho is Villa feel Garnacho may be a bit more open to engage with suitors that don't specifically have Champions League football next season, whereas Marcus Rashford is leaning towards going abroad and wants Champions League football now, especially in a World Cup year. Then Nicholas Jackson is an interesting case. Chelsea's perspective is very much they see Liam Delap, Nicholas Jackson, João Pedro as part of their front line. But if there's a situation where the money is just too good to turn down for Nicholas Jackson and Christopher Nkunku departs as expected, then Chelsea may move in the market for another attacker. I was always told that Benjamin Sesko was taken off the radar because he was too similar to both Jackson and Liam Delap. But obviously, if Jackson departs, let's wait and see if Chelsea change that perspective. They like Morgan Rogers. They still have Garnacho on their radar, which might seem odd given Jamie Gitton Bolton's has joined, but Giovanni Quenda, the other player that they're looking at as a long-term left winger, doesn't arrive for another year. So Chelsea could add another attacker, and it might be that Nkunku and Jackson go, but the difference is Nkunku feels almost definite that they'll entertain offers, whereas Jackson is appreciated by Enzo Maresca. But at the right money, Chelsea might consider bids, and you've got Villa, Milan, and even potentially Manchester United all exploring Nicholas Jackson on the player side and internally, but no bids yet to Chelsea.
And just while we're sticking on Chelsea, you sort of mentioned there, if they do get rid of Nicholas Jackson, if he does go elsewhere, potentially there's space for another striker. Of course, a man in the headlines has been Hugo Ekitike in terms of a potential sort of tug-of-war between Liverpool and Newcastle. He seems to be on their list. But is it right that sources close to Chelsea believe that Ekitike could also be a relevant signing for them? I believe his agent is the same as Moises Caicedo, who, of course, at the time was a British record transfer fee. Is there any danger that sort of Chelsea, off the back of an amazing Club World Cup final win over PSG, could sort of come from the side a little bit and sweep in on that move?
Yeah, it can't be discounted because they appreciate Hugo Ekitike, and it's a bit like João Pedro, where Chelsea ruled it out. They thought they had enough. They were not moving in May. Then Newcastle pushed, and by June, Chelsea realised that they did want to enter that race, and they got the player very quickly from there. So Chelsea are opportunistic to market profiles. Hugo Ekitike wants his future resolved now, though, so that will be a factor in all of this. Can Chelsea move? Do they think Ekitike is value for money? And the downside for Chelsea and for Liverpool is by entering the race along with Newcastle, a bit of a bidding war is created. So Frankfurt were maybe prepared to sell at the sort of £75 million mark as opposed to £85 million a week or so ago when it was just Newcastle in Germany. But now you've got Liverpool. If Chelsea enter the race as well, they might go up again and say we want 100 million euros or 85 million quid. So Chelsea are going to have to look at the finances and decide whether Ekitike, who's maybe a little bit more versatile, is the right kind of profile now. And possibly their perspective will have been changed by the fact that João Pedro arrived and hit the ground running. Liam Delap had a very positive Club World Cup as well. So they will feel covered in an attacking sense. But I come back to what I said before. Chelsea may want up to 9 senior attackers, and there remains a possibility that they add another forward. So Ekitike can't be discounted, but it's definitely Newcastle and Liverpool who are moving at the moment.
I definitely wouldn't count against Chelsea getting involved in that race, mate. Honestly, they change tack like the wind, and it usually works. So, yeah. Ben, I need you to enlighten me now, honestly, because basically, if it's not going to be any good news, I want you to just move on. But
fair enough.
but Brian and Boomer, I know you and Crookie, broke some stories probably about 6 weeks ago, and it was in such quick succession after Matheus Cunha. And as a United fan, you're thinking, I tell you
Momentum.
What, that's what you're supposed to do when you're 15th. You go and get Cunha, he's done, and Boomo's on the way, and all of a sudden, we're at deadlock still 6 to 7 weeks later. Ben, what's the latest with Brian and Boomer's move to Manchester United?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a criticism of Manchester United in this case, although seeing other clubs move, Manchester United fans may be saying, why are they so slow? Why are they not paying what it takes? Why are they not matching the 62.5 million? But there's an element in this negotiation of goalposts being moved, and it's not a criticism either of Brentford. They're tough negotiators and they're fully entitled to be. It's not the same situation as Johan Wissa, whose contract is ticking down a little bit more. And in essence, Manchester United 3 weeks ago placed this 62.5 million bid, including the add-ons, and they felt like they were close based on the discussions that they had, to the point where actually all parties were talking about a medical. Then a bunch of other business happened in the market. Brentford didn't bring in a replacement. They've still not got Amari Hutchinson over the line, and the goalpost moved. Then, of course, in the same period, Thomas Frank went to Spurs, and Brentford were able to leverage their interest. Spurs deny a bid. Brentford sources have always claimed that there was some form of offer around the 70 million mark. I'm a little bit sceptical, because if that bid was allegedly legit, then I would imagine it would have been accepted because it's the kind of grandstanding position of Brentford that maybe they'll go as high as £70 million. So Manchester United are struggling here, less because of what they're prepared to pay and more because the so-called asking price of 62.5 million to match Matheus Cunha has gone up a little bit because other deals have got done at a higher amount or alternatively lower amounts, but Manchester United yardstick and Mbeumo and say he should be more than, for example, example, Anthony Elanga. And this has led in a long window to a tough negotiation where Manchester United want to be really disciplined and not have that Manchester United tax of eventually getting it done at the 70 mark. So let's see how high they're prepared to go. But it's gone from all parties thinking a deal was basically done and a medical would happen to now a golfing valuation, and Manchester United still want to try and make progress before they head off to America next week.
Yeah, fingers crossed that one gets over the line. We have been speaking about Palace, of course, off the pitch and everything that has been happening, but on it, Eberiche Eze's future. What is the latest on that? Because there's been a lot of links with him potentially leaving Palace this summer.
Yeah, Crystal Palace won't want to lose Eze and Mateta in the same window. Eze's got a release clause. It's 60 million plus 8 million in add-ons, so all in 68. And Arsenal have held talks, but only on the player side so far. My expectation is that they will make an approach to Crystal Palace, but the key word is approach, not necessarily bid, because they first want to understand, is this a release clause or nothing deal, or is there maybe flexibility to go around the release clause or even bid below it? Eze would be keen on a move, but at the moment it's not like he's agitating or pushing in any way. So we have to wait and see if Arsenal advance this, but I do expect some formal talks with Crystal Palace sooner rather than later. Bayern, I'm told, have also held an internal discussion about Eze, and remember they've got a good relationship with Crystal Palace because they were able to do the Michael Elise deal, and Musiala, as you say, is out too. So that one could develop, and from Arsenal's point of view, the next task will be all about finding an attacking midfielder, maybe who can filter the left-hand side, but so can Noni Madueke. And obviously Ethan Nwaneri, after a few complications, looks like he's going to sign a new 5-year deal at Arsenal, and he may be seen as a central player too. So Arsenal need to now determine who their next target is. A lot of people asking about Rodrigo at the moment. We hear rumours about Liverpool. Arsenal, we know, are interested. The reality is Rodrigo's on holiday and hasn't yet communicated anything to Real Madrid. But Eze is a more feasible deal than Rodrigo because of the sheer finances involved in the latter.
Ben, just before we go, I've got to ask you about Morgan Gibbs-White. There's obviously been a soap opera for all to see regarding what's happened there. There's looks to be formal legal action against Spurs for their approach. But I heard you earlier potentially talking about, Forest trying in one last final bid to try to keep him at the club. What's the latest in that regard?
Yeah, it's an all or nothing situation. I think it less likely Gibbs-White just stays. Forest want to try and reward him. They've been doing that for 12 months. And the sticking point is that Gibbs-White didn't want the release clause removed. And as a consequence, and now Forest don't have Champions League football either, it's difficult between the parties. I wouldn't say acrimonious, but in the negotiation, Gibbs-White is unlikely to extend if there isn't this opportunity and clause that's been the point of contention with Spurs. But Forest are going to try again to see whether they can settle the player's future and end all of this. And I think they're buying time almost by threatening legal action against Spurs to allow them to talk further to the player. At the same time, you've got Spurs who insist they've done nothing wrong and still want to try and trigger the clause. And there may be another halfway house where Nottingham Forest say either to Tottenham, or if another suitor comes calling, the clause is out there in their eyes illegally, so they're not going to honour it for anyone as a consequence. But you might see somebody say, what if you pay a bit more with a more preferable structure to the buying club, and does that make it all go away? And whereas Spurs can't trigger the clause at the moment because this threat of legal action, they could make another bid. They could try and mediate and find a solution. And I think it is that all or nothing where Gibbs-White may extend at Forest like Elise did after Chelsea were accused of triggering his clause in the wrong way, and he did another year at Palace, or alternatively the Spurs deal gets over the line. But I think less realistic at the moment is just this rumbles on all summer. Forest block Gibbs-White and he stays at Forest on his current terms, because that will create friction and tension between Forest and Gibbs-White. Because remember, Gibbs-White's preference, I'm not saying the deal will happen, but his preference is still to go to Tottenham.
Ben, thank you so much, mate. Pleasure coming on. Enjoy the rest of your time in the Big Apple, mate.
Thanks, guys. All the best.
Mate.
Brilliant. That was Ben Jacobs, and that was all thanks to Ladbrokes. 18+, BeGambleAware.org.
The big preview on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Supercharge your odds with our Odds Boost button. Selected markets applies to first £50 of stake. Terms apply. 18+, BeGambleAware.org.
Right, coming up next, we're going to turn our attention to Arsenal, but Aston Villa fans, off the back of what we just heard from Ben, Nicholas Jackson and Alejandro Garnacho. What do you make of that one? Give us a call, 0371722 3344. We'll get to all your calls during the show. Good evening, how are we? You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, Max Scott, alongside Flex. We're going to get stuck into the Arsenal in a minute, analyse how we think their transfer window's going, and dare ask the question, could next season finally be the season that they get their hands on a Premier League title? But before we do that, another Arsenal fan is going to be joining Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy on the Sports Bar. Comedian and actor Matt Lucas joins the lads in the studio from 10 p.m. Make sure you tune in for that. That's going to be an absolute belter.
What a legend.
Yeah, I know. Little Britain, by the way. Cult classic.
What a legend.
I know.
Matt Lucas. Oh.
I might just stay in and just listen.
100%. I can't wait to see him in the corridor. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, delighted to say now we're welcoming in talkSPORT's very own Arsenal expert, talkSPORT presenter. It's Harry Symeou. Harry, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, we're
You're also a legend as well as Matt Lucas is as well, but you are too.
I'll take that. Even being mentioned in the same conversation.
Yeah, there's levels to the game, though, Harry. But no. Look, I follow you avidly on X because I think you give a really sort of healthy and reasoned sort of insight from an Arsenal perspective into what's going on at the club. Look, the criticism was being piled on about not signing a striker, particularly not in January, not going for Ollie Watkins, but it looks like that patience is really paying off because, you know, you talk about the people that are coming through the door and the people likely to come through the door in Victor Gyökeres. You must be feeling really sort of positive as it stands in pre-season.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if they announced it sometime soon because it feels like it's been dragging on for ages and ages. But I think in the end, Arsenal have landed on the right centre forward. I know there's been a little bit of revisionism over the last couple of days because we've heard that Alexander Isak might just be on the move. And I know for a lot of Arsenal fans, he was kind of the number one and the ideal target. But that never felt realistic, if we're being honest. And I think the thing that maybe people overlooked was that going into this summer, Arsenal had plenty of work to do. It was more than just bringing in a striker. You've seen them had to regenerate the midfield completely. You've seen them had to bring in another wide player. So I think for that reason, when you consider all things, and you've got someone who's experienced in Victor Gyökeres, someone who's scoring a lot of goals at the moment, and who has experienced English football before as well, which I think is important, regardless of at what level. I think that really, makes this a good, positive signing for Arsenal, and it's at a good price too.
That price bit you're saying there, Harry, I had to look back at that and think the pressure for Arsenal to go and get a striker, yes. But actually, when you look at the best part of £55 million base for a striker of his quality in today's market, I tell you what, you're looking at Hugo Ekitike and some of the younger players, someone like João Pedro as well, which they're good up-and-coming young players, but to get someone of Victor Gyökeres' quality in the end for that type of price, plus the, £8 or so odd million in add-ons, and like we were talking about add-ons, weren't we? Like, if you have to pay those add-ons, that means Victor Gyökeres is doing something right. So it's going to be fine. I wanted to ask you about Noni Madueke, because I think it was clear to see that he wasn't a lot of Arsenal fans' preference to come to the football club. Then there was a bit of, sort of sensible stuff going on of like, okay, we can't be signing petitions and doing too much. He's an Arsenal player essentially now. You've got to wish him well and stuff. Where have you been with all of that? And what type of signing do you think Noni Madueke will be? And what was your initial feelings of the fact that you're getting him from Chelsea?
Well, we've been hearing about Noni Madueke as an option for a while, but I don't think anybody really thought that Arsenal would move forward on that. And I certainly don't think anybody expected Arsenal to pay north of £50 million for him. I think it's a combination of things, Flex. Like when the link first came out, there was a part of me that goes, really, Noni Madueke, we're trying to level up here. Is he the answer? Is he the solution? And then you start to think about what Noni Madueke is as a player, and you think he's a dribbler and he's someone that breaks out of the system and can go and be spontaneous in the final third. He's got an eye for goal. He likes to cut inside and shoot with that left foot. And you think, actually, you know what, we could do with a little bit more of that. But when you factor in that he's coming from Chelsea again, which is a problem for Arsenal fans, by the way.
Is that a problem for you? Do you like they're helping out of Chelsea, or they're not that fussed that they're losing him? And you look at what happened with Havertz, or you look at other players that you've transferred in the past. Do you buy into that notion?
Me, not so much personally, but I can see why a lot of Arsenal fans feel that frustration, because there clearly is no rivalry at board level between these two clubs. There's nobody that they seem to negotiate better and more smoothly with than Chelsea these days. But from a fan's perspective, you don't want to be giving them money. You knew that they had to raise some money for UEFA sort of reasons over the course of the next couple of weeks. We've gone there. We've given them that money. It doesn't feel like Arsenal have tried to sort of negotiate at a more favourable price for the club. But then you read some of the reports that are coming out today, and my good friend Charles Watts reported this, and he said that Arsenal really do believe they've got a good deal in what they've paid for Noni Madueke. When you look at, for example, what Alanga's going for, what's being asked for Brian Mbeumo and others, and I kind of get that, but I think Noni Madueke is going to have to come in and he's going to have to hit the ground running. And if he does, I promise you, the legitimate Arsenal supporters out there will be behind him, and they'll get behind him, they'll support him, and they'll back him. You always get that noise online. It's spilled over into ridiculousness with the petition and things like that. To be honest, it's a very small minority of, unfortunately, very loud idiots, and I think we've got to learn as media, I think, especially to differentiate between what the actual fan consensus is. And it's right that people were a little bit on the fence about this deal, and it's right that people expressed concerns, but there's a way of doing it, and those who cross the line, I'm sorry, but they don't represent Arsenal Football Club.
I think really well said, Harry, because I look at Noni Madueke, and look, he's not the finished article, but I also think you look at the wider context, the standard of wingers, the standard bearers of wingers in European football. I mean, in people in that position, you look at the likes of Lamine Yamal and just how sort of electric he is, and I think that the temptation is, because Noni Madueke has gone from one big club in Chelsea to another big club in Arsenal, the expectation needs to be that he's all of a sudden a world beater and world class. But when you look at, of course, he's not that yet. But I think when I watch him, I think he's a great player with the ball at his feet. He can be really dangerous. He can finish really well. And under Mikel Arteta, who works incredibly well with young players and bleeding them through, I think you could look back in a few years and think that was an absolute steal. But talking of people in that position, Harry, Ethan Nwaneri, there's been a lot of noise around him, a lot of rumours around, him demanding sort of game time, etc. But it looks like maybe that wasn't the case, and that a deal is really close. And you must be really relieved because he's one of your own, and again, a really exciting prospect.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable talent, and you could see it from when he first came onto the pitch as a 15-year-old at Brentford, and you're looking at it, and a lot of people at the time, I remember Jason Cundy on here saying, no, it's just all about Arteta making it all about himself, bringing on the youngest player so he can say that it was him. Look at it now, fast forward 2.5 years, and we're all talking about him as one of the brightest prospects, not just in English football, but in European football. I never really felt too concerned, though, about the possibility of him leaving. If you go back to when he signed his first professional contract with the club, it was a long, drawn-out process. There were rumours of other clubs being interested. It sounds to me like Ethan Nwaneri's got a bunch of people around him that really care for him and really want to ensure that he gets the best possible deal. And I kind of admire that, because this day and age, we're so often talking about young footballers who maybe get led down the wrong path, have got bad influences around them, and who cause friction and problems. This never came out publicly. It wasn't like his agents were speaking publicly. There were some rumours and there were some whispers, but I was always confident he was going to stay. And that's as good a bit of business as Arsenal would do this summer. I know people are fixated on, the incomings, but they've signed a couple of really big players now down to big contracts, and I think that's really important too.
Yeah, of course. And as well, we were hearing from Ben Jacobs as well that Eberechi Eze could well be on the card. So certainly an exciting time.
So basically, after all of that, Arsenal going to win the league is what you're saying?
Yeah.
There's no excuse. Everything's fine.
Quick prediction from you, Harry. Are you feeling confident that you compete with Liverpool, who have obviously had an absolute belter of a transfer window?
I feel like we can compete for sure. We've had our hearts broken a couple of times in the last 3 seasons. So I'm not going to say it's a given and that Arsenal are going to cruise to the title. I don't think you can make those types of predictions in this league. But based on the business that we've already completed and the business that we seem to have in the pipeline, it feels like Arsenal are going to be in a better place. And if they are, and they can maintain the levels they've shown over the last few years and learn a few lessons, there's no reason why they shouldn't be up there among the favourites. And this is what we wanted, guys. I know that people get a little bit emotional and sometimes cross that line when Arsenal don't win and don't get over the line. But for years, we wanted to be competitive, and we're here now. Let's be hopeful and see where we end up.
Yeah, well said, Harry. Absolute pleasure for coming on. We'll speak to you soon, Harry.
Nice one, Harry.
Thanks for having me, guys. Cheers.
That is Harry Symeou, talkSPORT's very own and podcaster, Chronicles of the Gooner, bringing us up to speed on all the latest things. Gooners, I'd be feeling confident if I was an Arsenal fan, let me tell you. But Flex, you've hidden away for long enough now, because next up we're going to talk Manchester United and just what on earth is going on at Old Trafford. And as well, Aston Villa fans, what do you make of the news that Nicholas Jackson and Alejandro Garnacho are on your radar? Finally, some transfer movement for your club. 03717 223344. Give us a call and have you say. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. 18 plus BGambleAware.org.
Aguero, Solskjaer, Deeney, Watkins. Sure, you know all about those last-minute goals, but have you heard the one about the on-loan goalkeeper who saved his temporary employers from disappearing out the Football League and into almost certain financial oblivion? Back in 1999, Carlisle United, managed by Nigel Pearson, were fighting to stay in the Football League. Carlisle's finances were precarious with a capital P that season, leading to a scenario where, with 3 games to go, they had to ask the FA to sanction an emergency loan deal to bring in a goalkeeper. Swindon Town's Jimmy Glass arrived at the club. His efforts in his first 2 games earned the Cumbrians 2 draws. Those vital points meant that Carlisle went into their final game of the Division 3 season, now League 2, needing to beat mid-table Plymouth Argyle in front of their own fans and hope their relegation rival Scarborough didn't win against Peterborough at home. The game at the McCain Stadium finished 1-1, and with the same scoreline at Brunton Park deep into injury time, Scarborough's fans invaded the pitch en masse, believing their Football League status was secure, convinced they'd done enough to stay up. However, there'd be one more plot twist. Carlisle won a corner in the dying seconds, and up came Jimmy Glass. In one of those you couldn't make it up moments, Glass scored from a rebounded header and was promptly swamped by teammates and thousands of fans who quite simply couldn't believe what they'd just witnessed. As for Jimmy Glass, he became an overnight celebrity, but he never played for Carlisle again, and his playing career never really kicked on after that defining moment. He took on various jobs outside of football before finding his way back into the sport as player liaison officer at Eddie Howe's Bournemouth, and most recently the general manager at non-league Wimborne. Not the fairy tale ending to one of the most Hollywood moments in football, but the name Jimmy Glass will live on forever as the scorer of that goal, arguably the most important in any club's history.
Good evening, how are we? You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, Max Scott. The man sat alongside me is Flex, who's ready to absolutely let rip on what he thinks of Manchester United's transfer window so far. Of course, as you've heard, Ben Jacobs was on talking about Hugo Ekitike, the man of the moment, the man on the back pages everywhere. Liverpool and Newcastle looking to be battling it out for him. But of course, there is a possibility that Chelsea might just want to hijack that deal. They've got a good history of that. That, of course, is dependent on what happens to Nicholas Jackson. Ben Jacobs telling us the potential for him to be on the way to Aston Villa. Aston Villa fans, how do you feel about that? Get in touch. 03717 223344 on WhatsApp, 81089 on messages. And of course, the soap opera with Morgan Gibbs-White continues. We'll be getting into that. Should Forest just let it go? Should they just release him to Spurs, or should they hold on, try and keep their main man? All of that coming up. But of course, it's now time to talk. Mate, I must say about Manchester United, I grew up, and the teams that you just automatically hated, like in the 90s, for me, it was Manchester United and Leeds. Yeah. And now I look at those two clubs, I'm delighted Leeds are back in the Premier League. I want clubs like Leeds to be sort of to be stirring the pot. You know, I think they've got a great fan base. I'm delighted they're back in the Premier League. I'm at a point with Manchester United, genuinely. Lots of my mates that should be Forest fans but aren't, they're United fans. But they love United dearly. And, you know, I've got to a point now where I've got so much respect for United as a club and the loyalty that the fans have towards underperforming managers, underperforming players. It almost feels like, to me, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm almost sick and tired. Yeah, I feel sorry for you. I'm almost sick and tired of it. Yeah. And I look at this transfer window and think, it must be underwhelming if you're Ruben Amorim. And I know things take time. I know there's plenty more time, and it would be premature for us to say that they're failing in the transfer window. But you must be a little bit worried that really the only big signing you've got through the door is Cunha. And that almost happened by the end of last season.
100%, mate. I'm not somebody who enjoys, you know, reveling in misery and trying to shout and be loud. But I do try to see a silver line. I always try to see it from both sides.
You've got your work cut out.
And that's just it. When you try to do that, you end up back at a place where you go, right, so the overall summary is, this is still just terrible. Like, I'm being honest. Like, look, we knew the task at hand. So when, I think it's about petitioning blame and petitioning expectations accordingly, right? As a United fan, if you look at it in a sensible manner, we understand that there's been many sins of the past that have been done, right? So all these players are on bad contracts, too much money, underperformed. So we know it's going to be difficult to sell these players. You don't get to sell them when you say it's difficult to do that. Yeah. That is not the new hierarchy's fault. That is not Omar Barada's fault that Anthony was put on that money, was bought for that money. They've inherited that. But that stagnates them trying to undo it and go forward in a different direction. So I understand that. And also, as United fans, we have to be careful not to talk out of both sides of our mouths, because we want to change our complexion in the transfer market. Gone are the days where we're going to pay inflated fees for players who aren't good enough, for players that aren't going to work, and pay them massive wages and be stuck. We want to change that. So when you see, for example, what's going on with Brian Mbeumo, you go, well, yeah, but we don't want to be held to ransom by Brentford. We need to be sensible here. 62.5 million, 65 million package, we were comfortable with that. If we're looking at 70 and north of that, we need to try and eradicate the Man United tax. However, Brentford have every right to try and get as much money as they can. So, but then when you look at how bad the team has been and the squad construction and how much it needs to be sort of ripped up and almost rebuilt in the image of this new manager, but less so with just what Ruben Amorim's 3-4-3. I don't care about that. Man United need to just buy good players. Good football players. So if Ruben Amorim left tomorrow, they're adaptable and they're just good footballers.
What I guess what you're absolutely right. It's really difficult to articulate, because you want to give them time. You want to appreciate the change in approach in terms of being more pragmatic, not paying over inflated fees. But my question to you would be, you've made £8 million on the sale of Anthony Elanga to Newcastle with a sell-on fee. I think there's another player that you sold.
Alvaro Carreras, he's on his way to Real Madrid.
And so, is that, and United fans, get in touch. I want to hear what you think about this. Do you like the pragmatism, or do you just think there needs to be more of a sense of urgency? Because you've made an extra 12 million, million quid there. Give Brentford an extra 3 and get the man you want, and then move on to the next one.
The only way this could be classed as, you know, genius by Manchester United with this Brian Mbeumo deal is if they end up not paying 70 million. If they get to the end of this, the whole set of negotiation, and just give the money anyway, then it doesn't fill you.
But I guess what we're hearing now, though, is that United are not willing to do that.
Exactly. So when do you walk away?
At least there's an element of, and of course, United, a club of great tradition, there will always be that sense of self-respect and dignity. But at least in terms of these transfers, in the current context United find themselves in, Jason Wilcox and the lot are saying, we're not going to be taken for mugs here. And I think that's important for United moving forward. But when you talk about the list of names that have been linked to United, I mean, just to name a few, Emi Martinez, of course, a wonderful goalkeeper, Nicholas Jackson. I think the jury's undecided as to how good he is. Stupinan from Brighton, the left back. You've got Ollie Watkins as well, who's a great goal scorer, but he's maybe, you know, getting a little bit sort of older. Of course, he's not an old player, but all of these players, none of them sort of fill you with excitement.
But this is what's difficult, right? And this is what you talk about, a double-edged sword of, like, what are Man United supposed to do to get out of the rut, right? Because if you try to hang on there for, like, the dream signings of the ones that really, you know, Victor Gyökeres, for example, couldn't do it. Doesn't want to come here. Do you know what I mean? You also got to look at, fees, Victor Osimhen, etc. It couldn't materialise, didn't want it. Manchester United tried to get Liam Delap. Everybody, Forest put their marker in. Newcastle put their hat in the ring. He chose Chelsea. That was where Manchester United were at. 30 million opportunistic signing.
But even Gyökeres.
Gyökeres would have been, we've seen what the price looks like, about £55 million, but the relationship with Amorim, but it was always faint because he wants to play in Champions League. He's in his prime. Why is he going to want to come to the team that just finished 15th just because he used to be managed by Ruben Amorim? It's not enough. So then Man United pivot, and which is what I do like, and at the beginning of the window, getting in Mateus Cunha. I think Manchester United need to buy more players from the league.
Agreed. You look at what Spurs are doing.
Exactly.
Kudus, Gibbs White, proven Premier League players. There's no bedding in time. They know the language, they know the tactics, they know the physicality and the intensity. Side note, I think Spurs are going to get off to a flyer with Thomas Frank. I think the fact that they've been so ruthless and clinical in the market, that they seem to have got a lot more investment coming into the club. I think we'll look back in a year's time and be like, it was ruthless on Ange Postecoglou to sack him. Yeah. But I think Thomas Frank's hugely underrated. Of course, he's got to prove himself at a bigger club, but I'd be worried about them next season. 100%. If you're a United fan, if you're an Arsenal fan. But it's not just about getting players in, Flex. You have got this, we all call it a bomb squad. Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Alejandro Garnacho. It's been interesting reading, particularly look on social media, some people sort of saying, well, hold on, that's not right for the culture of a football club. If you're trying to rebuild something and you're trying to fix things at Manchester United, having a bomb squad isn't good for it. What do you make of having a bomb squad? Would you rather those boys be integrated into training because it's going to be difficult to get rid of him, or do you like it?
No, it's exactly what's needed, Max, if I'm honest. Manchester United also need to show, if you want to shift culture, you have to show that you're going in a new direction and you're leaving the things behind that. I'm not going to say they were holding us back, it's all their fault. I don't buy into that. There's many failings as to why the 5 players that you mentioned are leaving the football club. But if that's a decision that's been made, you need to go forth and multiply. And let's be honest, it's not a secret, because what it is in business. I was on the tour last year in America, and Jadon Sancho came back and he was on tour and he was doing interviews with MUTV, and it was, the smiles, and he'd been exiled from Eric Ten Hag before that, got back off loan, and it was the optics of, you don't want to make it look like you've fallen out with the player because the buying clubs are going to say, oh, he wants out and you want rid of it. But now it's gone past that. Marcus Rashford has done an interview with Henry Winter after being told probably that they were going to look for or accept bids for him, but he's gone on record as saying, I want a new challenge. That's it. There's no, Man United can't preserve. There's nothing to preserve. Yeah. Jadon Sancho hasn't been at United playing football for over 18 months, going on 2 years. Like, it's over. Terrell Malacia, it's over. Anthony, it's over. So I think those players, it's gone too far. And it's actually got to the point where financially, Manchester United obviously can't afford to do it. But it's like, you have to just find a way to cut ties and move on. You have to. And if that means that 25 million that you wanted for Jadon Sancho, actually, that's going to look like more than like 15 million, and you have to give him a severance package to cover his wages just so you can clear it out and start again. You're going to have to start accepting lower fees. Now, the problem with that is we need money to reinvest into the squad. So it's this revolving carousel that you can't see the light. You can't.
No, you're not wrong. We are going to continue this conversation.
Do we have to?
Unfortunately, Flex, for you, we're going to continue it. Manchester United fans, give us a call. If you call, you will get through. What do you think your club need to do? And would you walk away from that Mbermo deal if it's too much? We want to know which players you want to sign. Flex rightly saying we want Premier League proven players. Who are those players? Because I, for one, can't see what players you can get that are going to benefit you from the Premier League, considering the state that
Brian
you're in.
Mbeumo.
Well, other than him.
Ollie Watkins.
Do you think he's the one?
Mate, I don't know. We cannot scoff at Ollie Watkins. Absolutely not.
Manchester United fans, get in touch. 03717 22 3344. Your call's next. Yeah, this is a Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, Max Scott, alongside Flex. Manchester United fans, we're going to be taking your calls in a moment. We want to know, who should Manchester United be going in for? Is Ollie Watkins enough? Is Brian Mbeumo enough? What do you need to see from your club? Keep your calls coming in 03717 223344. However, the first quarter-final in the Women's Euros is underway. Ian Abrahams is watching for talkSPORT.
And there's 19 minutes gone. Norway 0, Italy 0. Don't forget the winners of this will play the winners of tomorrow's quarter-final between Sweden and England. So possibly England's opponents in the semi-finals here. I think most thought that it will be Norway on the front foot and Italy on the counter-attack. It's not really been that way in the opening 20 minutes or so. In fact, Italy have had the best chance. Caruso early on after Italy won the ball midway inside the Norwegian half. 8 yards out. Didn't really do anything with it and kind of ended up stabbing it wide. But Italy have been the better team probably, or settled quickish, shall I say, in the opening 20 minutes. Don't forget, it's live on talkSPORT 2, this one. It's Norway 0, Italy 0.
UEFA Women's Euro 2025 update on talkSPORT with McDonald's. When the big match means big McDonald's hunger, try the new and iconic Big Arch. Available from 11 a.m. at participating restaurants.
Brilliant stuff from Ian Abrahams there. We'll be keeping you across that quarter-final in the Women's Euros throughout the show. Your texts are coming in. Martin from Farnborough is a United fan. He says, getting Mbeumo as a priority. Then Chance going after Mateta from Palace. Yeah. We need a number 9 proven in the Premier League. Plays in the same formation as Amorim wants to play. I think that'd be a great shout. I know Palace fans won't want to hear that because what a player he's been for them. You'd take him, wouldn't you, Flex?
Absolutely take Mateta, 100%.
Absolutely. Right, Ryan is the Manchester United fan. He's on the line. Ryan, how are you, mate? What do you want to say about your club?
Yeah, hi guys. I think the thing that I'm most concerned with is Almiron and whether or not he's even going to be here in a couple of months, because we haven't seen an awful lot that proves that we're going to keep him. He plays a formation that is probably not going to be adopted by whoever takes over. And I don't particularly support Ineos massively, if I'm being honest. I don't like what I've seen. But why on earth would you give this guy the treasure chest when he'll probably just buy players that won't fit a system in 6 months anyway? That money that we got for Alanga, that'll be a severance package.
I see what Ryan. Listen, even Amorim himself said, I can't really offer excuses or reasons why you should back me. Yeah. I feel embarrassed. He's very, very honest, and I do hear what you're saying, Ryan. I just think that having come in halfway through the season and not being able to have a proper transfer window to be backed and to put his principles across, he's got a lot of work to do. And I'm pretty sure you've seen our start. We've got 3 of the top 6 in the first 6 games. There's enough in them first 6 to 9 games for it to go really wrong. So I see what you mean. But that's why I think, Ryan, I don't know what you think. I think that's why we focus on not necessarily buying players for this 4-3-3 or buying a specific wing back and all of this nonsense. Just buy good players. If Ruben Amorim left tomorrow, Lenny Yoro has proved he can play in a back 4, he can play in a back 3, De Ligt can play in a back 4, he can play in a back 3, Mazraoui's adaptable. Yeah. If you get a proper number 9, he knows where the back of the net is regardless. So I just think just buy good players rather than the ones who, like you say, don't just buy players just for Amorim, Ryan.
No, well, the Premier League players is a shout. It's the one thing that we've, look at Ten Hag. He signed half of the Dutch league, and shock horror, they're not as good as Premier League players.
Who do you want to see him bring in, Ryan? Realistically,
the thing is, I think a lot of the good Premier League talent that I would have wanted got snapped up 2 or 3 seasons ago, while we're signing, people that aren't good enough from fringe leagues. Yeah, that's the fact of the matter. There are some really good players. I mean, Eze would be incredible at Man United. Yeah. But we can't even find a space for Mainu.
Yeah, look. I mean, and that's a difficult one as well. You look at Kobbie Mainoo, one of your own, who's been brought through, at Carrington. Sure, like you say, you just want good players. Kobbie Mainoo is good enough to play in any system. So that it seems to me confusing why Kobbie Mainoo hasn't been a key part of what Amorim's been trying to do.
Look, what's the wage bill of those 5 players we want to get out of the club? Like, how much are we paying them currently, and what could we do with the players that we could bring in? But again, the board just, I feel sympathy for the fact that, we bought some terrible, terrible players and put them on big wages. But none of the managers we brought in, why is it we bring in a new manager and they have to fall out with somebody? Ten Hag did it with Ronaldo. Almiron's done it with Rashford, as did Ten Hag as well. Like, why is it we get a new manager in and it's like, right, who can we immediately pinpoint failure on?
Yeah. No, Ryan, I think you're expressing the sentiments of lots of United fans. Thanks so much for your call,
Nice one,
Ryan.
Ryan, mate.
Brilliant stuff. Roy is on the line. He's a Manchester United fan from Doncaster. The Donny Soldier, Roy. Absolutely love it. Have you been to the Donny Dome recently?
No, I try to stay away from there.
Yeah, I don't blame you, to be honest, mate. Anyway, Roy, what do you want to say about Manchester United? How are you feeling about how things are going in this transfer window so far?
Well, I kind of disagree with the last fella. Amorim, I think he's here for the future. I like him. I think he is honest, and he might be too honest, but I like the way he is. I like him as manager. I think we've got to give him 100% support. I think we need to start from the back. Anana, not a chance. Yeah. We need someone like Martinez. And I know everyone's saying, don't let clubs hold us to ransom. I get that. I understand that with Mbamo and that lot. But you need to start at the back. I know we had problems scoring. We had problems everywhere last season. I know we did. But Anana, he's not the answer. He's a liability. You don't know what's coming from one day to the next, from one game to the other. Yeah. And the players in front of him need to know that they've got someone reliable and substantial in between the nets, and we ain't got that. Yeah. So Martinez is the first port of call I think we need, or a keeper of that calibre. And if it costs, it costs. The only thing that confuses me is Sir Jim Ratcliffe laying people off from the canteen 1 minute and then talking about £1 billion stadium the next minute. I think he lives in cloud cuckoo land.
That's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing. You talk about a bit of confusion there, Roy. I take your point 100% on the goalkeeping situation. There's too much evidence now of Onana mishaps that just breeds, a lack of confidence across the whole back five. It really, really does. I agree with you with that. But on Ineos, Roy, you mentioned Sir Jim Ratcliffe there. What do you think they need to be doing differently? How much slack do you cut them with all of the stuff that's gone wrong before they've got to unpick? And of course, we know as United fans, the Glazers, no one, not that no one's talking about them anymore, but they're allowing Sir Jim Ratcliffe to sort of be right at the front of this now, as almost like the fall guy. Where do you stand on all that? And what do you make of Ineos so far?
Well, you look at that interview with Gary Neville with Sir Jim Ratcliffe that was done over 3 parts. Yeah. And Gary Neville, all right, people love or hate Gary Neville, and I'm not a massive liker of him, but Gary Neville spoke a lot of sense, and a few things he raised with Sir Jim. It looked like Sir Jim didn't have a clue. He's good at running businesses and all that, but I know he might have a stake in, is it Lyon in France or somewhere like that?
Nice, yeah.
Nice in France, yeah, I know. But look at the mistakes with the guy we hired and from Newcastle, then we let him go a few months later. It proves that I don't think Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a sportsman for a club like United. I don't think he's the answer.
Lots of Arabs that live on the world.
The other guy that wanted to own United, I can't remember his name.
Sheikh Jassim.
Yeah, the Qataris.
Yeah, who's to know he would have done better, but I don't think Sir Jim Ratcliffe is the answer. I really don't, but we've got him. If he's not going anywhere, we need to work with what we've got, and we need to clear the 4 or 5 players out that Rashford, etc. At the moment, we need to clear them out. Once we clear them out, start with a keeper, get the confidence from the back going forward. We've got Kuna. We might get Mbeumo. But
well said.
We're grasping. Yeah. We've got to grasp nice.
Roy's got a clear plan. Thanks for your call, Roy. Just on that, Flex, got to quickly ask. I mean, he's mentioned about the optics there. Saying that you cutting all of those jobs of staff that have been there all the time, and then announcing a £2 billion stadium, saying you ain't got enough money to buy any players, but you're going to be spending 120 million quid on Cunha and Mbeumo. How do you think that is a bit of an issue for Ratcliffe? Because you're right, he's sort of protecting the Glazers in terms of he's standing at the forefront a little bit, but there does seem to be, it's not sort of all harmony there, is it?
And it's very, I can't explain this without going into real boring depth at the Man United podcast level, which we're not going to do right now, right? But there's so many layers to what's wrong at United, right? So what we're expecting or what we want is a saviour, right? Yeah. So we want Sir Jim Ratcliffe to come in and essentially, clear that debt and sort this out and sort out years and years and years of decay from the Glazer ownership. That's just not going to happen. You don't buy a minority of something as a businessman and, put in all... And, he put in some of his money to the training ground immediately. He put into some to clear some of the debt to try and balance the books. But the reality is that Man United has been run so badly for so long. It's going to take a long time to undo it, and more pain, and that's what I've just understood more pain, and I hate to be pessimistic, but you know, you're talking about how are we even going to get these players off the books to even begin to undo it?
Well, that's the biggest challenge.
Can't even do that.
That's the biggest challenge as well, not just getting players in, but getting rid of some of that dead wood. Right, Manchester United fans, keep your calls coming in. We want to hear from you. 03717 223344.
undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
The first unified heavyweight champion from Britain in a century.
Lennox Lewis.
The Americans didn't want me to take it over to Britain, but I actually persevered and succeeded.
I'm in my prime of my career now, so it's now or never.
Down goes Joshua. Dubois hits him with a tremendous right-hand counter.
He slayed one king back in September.
Dynamite Daniel Dubois has detonated at Wembley Stadium.
He's about to slay another king on the 19th of July.
Bombs away.
Are you going to knock him out?
Bombs away, mate.
You dropped up to Dubois. He's put Joshua down.
And Alexander Usyk finds the answer.
You win it, you have all the 4 belts, and create history.
You know what they say? We'll see. We'll see.
Heavyweight brilliance, heavyweight occasion, heavyweight radio. How about that?
Oh, that is going to be an absolute belter, isn't it? Don't miss the heavyweight rematch between Usyk and Dubois for all the belts and undisputed glory. This Saturday, July 19th, live only on DAZN. Buy now at DAZN.com/boxing.
Boxing Update on talkSPORT with DAZN, the global home of boxing. Buy now at dazn.com/boxing.
And of course, if you can't watch it on DAZN, you can listen to it live on talkSPORT this Saturday. Coverage gets underway at 6 p.m. What an absolute cracker of a live sports we've got on Saturday. Lions at 11 a.m. in the morning. You can do what you want for the rest of the day and then tune in to that absolute belter of a fight. Who have you got for that, by the way, Flair? I think they was going to do it. I know it sounds ridiculous because Usyk's just unbelievable.
It's not ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. Heavyweight boxing, as they say. And the turnaround from Daniel Dubois from the last fight he had with Alexander Usyk, he's beaten Miller, he's beaten Ergovic, and we all saw what happened at Wembley against AJ. I just think Usyk's just too good a mover. He's just too good a boxer. He's just light on his feet. He comes at you from all angles. He throws high volumes of punches. He can wear Dubois down, but listen, I think the confidence that Daniel Dubois got now and the belief that he's got himself, I wouldn't be totally shocked if he did it.
The only thing that doubt is in my mind, Paul Smith was on with Danny Kelly and Simon Jordan earlier, and he was saying that Daniel Dubois is much the bigger man, and that because of the way that Usyk wears you down, ultimately that could be sort of going into the latter rounds, Dubois could just be shot on his feet. But I'm backing our man Dubois. I reckon he's going to do it. Right, we're going to head back to the Women's Euros. The first quarter-final is underway, and Ian Abrahams is watching for talkSPORT. What's the latest, Ian?
10 minutes to half-time, still Norway 0, Italy 0, but Italy really should be in front by now. They're the only team likely to score so far in this first half. Severini had a shot in the left-hand side of the penalty area, which she was trying to go across the goalkeeper, didn't get enough on it really, and the keeper made what looked a comfortable save in the end. And then just a couple of minutes ago, an Italian player challenged inside the penalty area while they all seemed to be screaming for a penalty. The left back, Di Guglielmo, had a shot which went into the side netting and was very close to giving Italy the lead. As for Norway, not a shot on target in anger really in the first 10 minutes. Remember, the winners of this play either England or Sweden. That's live on talkSPORT tomorrow night from Zurich. But in Geneva tonight, where the game is live on talkSPORT 2, it's currently Italy 0, Norway 0.
UEFA Women's Euro 2025 update on talkSPORT with McDonald's. Got Big McDonald's hunger? The new Big Arch is here. Available from 11 a.m. at participating restaurants.
Right, we're heading straight back to the phone lines. Manchester United fans are calling in their droves. Flex has been calling for United to sign Premier League proven players. Johnny's a Man United fan. Johnny, who do you want to see come into the club? What do you make of the pre-season so far?
Yeah, the thing is, for me, if you listen to Gary Neville and Roy Keane speak, when they joined the club, they came into a club that already had a core group of players, and there was a culture in the club. People like Brian Robson, Mark Hughes,
legends.
You just don't have that at the club anymore. So if a player's coming from the youth system or a new signing's coming into the club, they look around and they're going into the dressing room, and I don't see who the leaders are in the dressing room. I don't see who's setting the example. I mean, in terms of who you would bring in, I mean, Ferguson always went for British players, but. I mean, maybe someone like Adam Ward in midfield, Mark Gahey. If you go back towards that core of British players and create that culture again.
Yeah, he did, Johnny. And that's what I mean. Like, people forget that was a big bit of Sir Alex's success, and not just the British players, but like you say, just the players from the league. We used to go to teams in the league and nab their players, and now it's almost like it's the teams around us. It's Wolves, it's Brentford, it's Crystal Palace we're looking at, because that's the level that Man United are at. I think we need to sort of drop that, that Man United arrogance. Obviously, we're Man United, we're massive, which we are, but we have to understand where we actually are. We can't attract players like Florian Wirtz, or we can't go and get Victor Osimhen at the minute, or Victor Gyökeres. It just isn't there. So, Johnny, just wanted to ask you, where should Ruben Amorim start? We're clearly trying to fix the attack. Do you agree with that tactic that he's brought in Kuna straight, he's going after Mbeumo? We need a number 9, or do you see it a bit differently? Midfielders, goalkeeper.
I'll tell you what really stands out for me. That I think the whole system it revolves around the wing backs. I think the wing backs have got to be so fit, because they've got to get forward and attack. They've got to defend. And when you looked at his Lisbon team, I think they were both teenagers that were playing at wing back, and I think that could be the critical part. Because I mean, who knows with Højlund? He might come good, he might not. But I think he's going to give him his chance. Then we've got Obi coming behind Højlund, who looks like a natural goal scorer. And then it's fitting in behind that. I mean, if you're going to have Fernandes in the team, and Cunha and Mbeumo, are you going to play Mbeumo and Cunha at number 10 and play Fernandes in centre midfield?
He did that a lot last year, didn't he? Bruno back one.
Yeah, it's tough squeezing them all in. But I think the wing backs could be key, and they don't seem. We've got Dorgu. I don't know if Luke Shaw's fit enough to play that sort of role every game. So that would be the key for me, the wing backs.
So, by the way, someone at Man United give Johnny a job on coaching staff.
Yeah,
absolutely,
exactly.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, knows what they need. Just on what Johnny said. Great call, by the way, Johnny. Thanks so much for getting in touch. I think he makes a really good point about leadership.
Yeah.
Because one of the things, like growing up, look, I'm in my early 30s. Growing up, I was drawn to football because Forest were nowhere, and I went for Forest for the love of it. You know, League One days, Championship, relegation, all that sort of stuff. But I was inspired in the Premier League by the likes of Patrick Vieira, leaders like Roy Keane, Gary Neville, and I just think they're a bit of a dying art nowadays. It feels like they're not built from the same stuff anymore, and they haven't got that same grit, they haven't got that same sort of determination. It's stuff like, you know, in the tunnel, players that have, you know, vaguely know each other and they're all dabbing up in the tunnel. I just sort of think, no, I want the days where Gary Neville refused to speak to his brother.
Yeah, in the tunnel,
because they're about to play against each other. And I just sort of, I look at United and think, you know, let's not drag up the old discussion about Bruno Fernandes, but bringing in someone like Matheus Cunha, yes, a brilliant talent, yes, can moments of magic win you a game. But he does come with a little bit of baggage from Wolves, and I do worry about the sort of the profile of player that maybe United are bringing in. Is it, like we've just heard from Johnny, is it the sort of the quality of character that United need?
Character 100% is a big part of it, and you know, also at the sort of pushback to the opposite of what you're saying, you also need people who aren't scared of the weight of the shirt of Man United, because that also leads to a bad character or the wrong type of character in a different way. There's too much pressure here. We've seen top players come here. You know, look at Jadon Sancho's reputation as he got into Manchester United, but then as he got into this environment,
became too much.
It just became too much, and now look, you know, years later. So I do agree with you. I personally like the fact that we're getting someone like Matheus Cunha. I think someone with a little bit of needle. Yes, that does need taming here and there. Of course, you're going to have to manage, you know. But if we go back to it, mate, we signed Eric Cantona. If you're talking about loose cannon, and Man United have had players like this, it's all about, and this is why the manager is so important. It's about managing those characters. It's about containing those, giving someone a little bit more wiggle room than someone else, and getting that sort of equilibrium within the dressing room, which is really, really difficult. But I like the Matheus Cunha signing.
Look, I don't want that to be taken out of context. I think Matheus Cunha is a brilliant signing, but I don't think that. I think he wants to play for Man United. He made that crystal clear.
He wants exactly. You know what I mean?
He's taken that number off Marcus Rashford. There you go. Who said what you want about Marcus Rashford as a boy from Carrington? You know, come through the ranks. Yes, it's not ended well, but he said, "No, I want that."
Yeah,
and. Look, I'm not going to compare him to Eric Cantona, but I think he's got that swag about him.
Exactly.
And yeah, you're right. If Ruben Amorim, and I do think Ruben Amorim is a leader, and he won't take any sort of nonsense from players, that could work out really well. But equally, it's not enough. We've got another, I don't know if you're a Manchester United fan, but James is on the line. James has got a suggestion about who he wants United to sign. What have you got to say, James?
Let's hear it, James.
Hey up, gents. I'm a Stoke fan, not a United fan, but I've just been listening. Just going on the back of the chat from Doncaster before, saying about the situation at United. It's been reported about Aaron Ramsdale.
I mean,
we just lost him.
We lost him, but at just the right time. He's talking about Aaron Ramsdale. I mean, let's be honest. Aaron Ramsdale's got a little bit. He's a fabulous keeper, by the way. I think a great character. I loved seeing him for England, even when he wasn't playing for Arsenal. He's cheering on the side. I think a great culture carrier, but he has got a record of being relegated. But what do you make of that as a signing for you boys?
Look, listen, he's better than Andre Onana.
Yeah, in
terms of shot stopping and.
With the ball at his feet.
With the ball at his feet, not so much.
Yeah.
And he can lose concentration as well here and there, by his own admission. But here's another sticking point for Man United as well, right? We're in a very, very bad place, so it's easy to replace the players that aren't good enough with ones that are marginally better than the ones that you had, but they're still not the answer. You know, and that's where I think going into that territory, for me, Aaron Ramsdale, not so much. But But he is better than Onana.
Yeah. But you make that point there about signing, not just signing someone that's a little bit better. That's where it goes back to the point, what talkSPORT have been reporting today. Manchester United are willing to be patient. They are not going to pay over the odds.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, you can't have it both ways. You can't be racing to sign players if they're not good enough and they're overpriced. And so maybe Manchester United fans, and I'm not saying they're not, they know more than anybody the situation that they're in. You're one of them, Flex, but they know patience is what is needed. This rebuild was never going to be fixed next season. For me, the idea that you will qualify for the Champions League next season is an absolute pipe dream. This is going to take time. Yeah. And I, for one, certainly hope that Manchester United stick with Ruben Amorim, because I know he's a little bit abrasive, but I think that is what Manchester United need to turn things around. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, Max Scott, alongside Flex. Next up, we're going to continue bringing you the very latest transfer news. Good evening, you're listening to the Transfer Insiders with me, Max Scott and Flex. We're going to continue giving you the very latest transfer news from talkSPORT, but first, it's half-time in that first quarter-final at the Women's Euros. Ian Abrahams.
Thought it might be tight, and it is. Italy 0, Norway 0. Remember, extra time and penalties in Geneva tonight to get a winner who will play either Sweden or England in the semi-finals. The Italians have been by far the better team in the first half. 2 chances for Caruso, bookending the half. One at the beginning, one at the end. From 8 yards out, she went wide, and 25 yards out, half volley straight at the keeper. They were the best 2 chances. Severini as well had a shot saved by the goalkeeper. Meanwhile, Bielda's ball in from the right-hand side basically hit Hegerberg 6 yards out and just went wide. And then we saw the youngster Galsep from 40 yards out, wide right-hand side, spotted the goalkeeper off her line, and she was 3 or 4 yards wide, but it was an audacious effort for sure. Don't forget, the game is live on talkSPORT 2, the second half, and England and Sweden will be watching this eagerly to see who they'll meet in the last 4. Half-time, though, we don't know. It's Norway 0, Italy 0.
UEFA Women's Euro 2025 update on talkSPORT with McDonald's. The new Big Arch has landed at McDonald's with its very own signature sauce. Available from 11 a.m. at participating restaurants.
Dave, the United fan from Morecambe, has got in touch. He says, "Evening, gents. Great show. Sadly, I think the days of players and captains like Roy Keane, Vieira and even Gerrard are gone. Players today can't cope with being told where they're going wrong, even if it's constructive criticism. We see it year in and year out. I'd love to see the likes of Roy Keane give United a team talk these days." I mean, you're not wrong there, Dave. I think that is something, particularly from football fans that remember the good old days. I think that's a sentiment certainly that will be felt by Manchester United fans. I've just got to ask you a question from one Forest fan to a United fan, Flex.
Yeah.
Of course, there's this ongoing saga regarding Morgan Gibbs-White on his way to Spurs. Do you look at that as a Manchester United fan and think, is that not... would that not have been a great move for Manchester United? You know, we're talking about proven Premier League players.
Yeah.
Morgan Gibbs-White essentially is captain Forest for the first time in Europe in 30 years. Do you think that... Are you concerned about the fact that they've not gone in for it?
The only reason I would say no is because we've gone for players like that in the position. So I'm looking at Matheus Cunha and I'm looking at Brian Mbeumo. That for me is a position that Morgan Gibbs-White would have occupied if we looked at him. So we just chose different players in that position. But Morgan Gibbs-White is a fantastic footballer. But because we're looking at Mbeumo and we already have Matheus Cunha and we've got Bruno Fernandes, Kobbie Mainoo's going to be a 10 in this system. Mason Mount's back fit again. Ahmad can play in a 10. Again, where would he go? Would be stuck. But for you, mate, let's be honest.
Yeah,
this is looking like a bit of a saga because that news came out so quick with Spurs. You know, it always looked like Man City was sort of interested. Then it kind of went away. Then boom, Spurs medical. He's on his way to London. Then no, he's not. Legal case going on. What is going on, and where are you at with this Gibbs-White thing now as a Forest fan?
Well, look, we heard from Ben Jacobs a little bit earlier that Forest essentially are going in for a last-ditch attempt at a really lucrative offer to try to keep him at the club. I think to increase that release clause.
He wants to stay?
Well, look, I've been reflecting on this. It's the way that it's all unfolded, I think, has been really unfortunate because ultimately Forest's preparation for their first season in Europe in 30 years has been massively hindered. Anthony Elanga's gone. The Morgan Gibbs-White news has hit the club. He's been blindsided by that. But ultimately, I look at Morgan Gibbs-White. He's carried the club during some really sort of tumultuous times, PSR, relegation fights. He's been our main man. He's been the key to it. So it's devastating to see him go. But I just sort of think at this point, what do Forest fans expect? For all of us, our club is the best and it's the biggest. But we all knew deep down, not even deep down, we all knew Morgan Gibbs-White wasn't going to be a career player for Nottingham Forest. I appreciate that what the club are trying to do is to maximise the value they get from their best player, because £60 million is not enough, and they've been blindsided by this. So I understand that what the club are trying to do, they're trying to make it difficult for Spurs and they're trying to get more money for him. But ultimately, I just think it's caused such a hoo-ha. Just forget about it. You know, from my perspective, I know that not all Forest fans feel the same way. He goes with my blessing. Get him gone. Take the money. Get as much money as you can. Go in for a James McAtee, a Harvey Elliott, a Johan Visser, and all of a sudden there's a bounce at the club. And you go again. But I agree with
what you're saying. I mean, I think as football fans, we've been speaking about this. Like, what we tend to do is we're so emotionally invested, we forget that players don't often see the game how we see it, especially the clubs. Like you say, we all think our club is the biggest and best, and when players come and go, we will still be there. So to think that players, just because he's got the armband on, he's putting in an amazing shift every single week because he gets it, that doesn't transpire into he would want to sign a new contract, get a statue here and go down as, you know, a legend at Forest. But he's going to be professional. He loves the club. He's doing his job.
He's turned up to training.
And he's, you know, I just Forest fans getting onto him. I don't understand what they want him to do. And people can say why Spurs and this, that, and the other. Listen, there's a new manager there. They're in the Champions League. They've just won their first trophy in 17 years. Yeah. You know, Mohamed Kudus is there already. They're looking to go places. This could be the turnaround at Spurs. Massive stadium, big opportunity. Yes, more wages and all these types of things, but I think you can't blame him if he left for Spurs.
I understand it, and look, we don't know exactly what's gone on behind the scenes. There's obviously been some sort of suspicious activity that would be perceived by the club as a little bit frustrating. But ultimately, Morgan Gibbs-White, regardless of how Forest fans feel about him leaving, he has carried the club. He's been instrumental, and I just sort of think let's move on now. Because also if he stays, there's going to be a fractured relationship between him and the fans. There might very well be issues in the dressing room with hold on a minute, you've just given him the biggest contract at the club after he's, been forcing for a move out. So I just sort of think it's much better that Forest move on.
Yeah.
However, one thing I would say is I'm not having this idea that Forest are now relegation candidates. And I've heard that a lot from people.
No, that's
and I just think you look at...
Not over 3 teams to come up.
No. And you've got, Murillo, Aina, Milenkovic, Nico Williams. That back line's absolutely class. It was brilliant last year, and it'll continue to be.
I don't buy into that. And also, if this Gibbs-White deal does go through for the best part of 60 million, or we'll see what that looks like. Let's just, for argument's sake, say it's 60 million. You got 50 million pounds, 55 million pounds for Anthony Elanga. Got over 110 million pounds to invest properly into the squad on other good players. The same way how you built that squad that is slightly been dismantled. You can do it again.
I tell you what, it reminds me of you talking about sort of Ruben Amorim and everyone focused on this 3-4-3, whereas you're actually saying, no, hold on a minute, we need to buy just good players that fit in any system.
Yeah.
That is what I would say is a massive challenge for Forest, is that towards the end of last season, whether we like it or not, clubs worked us out.
It did.
And we should be in the Champions League, and we wouldn't be selling Anthony Elanga, we wouldn't be selling Morgan Gibbs-White, but it all sort of tailed off at the end. What I'd like to see is to Forest not just to develop the players that they're bringing in and bring in some good players to replace Gibbs-White, but also to try to develop a different way of playing.
Yeah.
Because I think that particularly if the person that makes you tick, that makes that system tick, is gone, it's really important that we learn how to play a different way.
And especially someone like Anthony Elanga, who is so important to being explosive in transitions like that, which is why he's obviously going to fit in really well at Newcastle. But you're missing 2 really key components.
How does it feel? You look at Anthony Elanga, another Manchester United player, flourishing, excelling elsewhere.
It just shows you. That's what I mean. It shows you that Man United and the environment is the issue here. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of revisionism that means, all of a sudden bring Anthony Elanga back. There is a different pressure playing at United, different style. Playing at Forest, like you said, it was sit back in there, tuck in, then bang, you're gone in transition. He's an athlete, Anthony Elanga, lightning quick, really worked on his end product. I'm really, really happy for him because, it just shows that when you step out of Manchester United into a different light, look at Anthony at Betis. Look at Scott McTominay, as Player of the Year. But he was coming off the bench the year before at United. Couldn't get and even still got double figures goals.
Well, another player as well that looks like, one of your homegrown players that looks like he's going to go elsewhere. We broke this to you during the show. talkSPORT understands Aston Villa are monitoring both Nicholas Jackson and Alejandro Garnacho, who, of course, if you remember, posted a picture of himself on summer holiday wearing an Aston Villa shirt with Marcus Rashford on the back. Yeah, he's clearly making a point. Yeah. He wants out. Yeah. But how difficult... I'm sure if Garnacho went to Villa, got out of the situation at Manchester United under Unai Emery, I think he'll do far better than Rashford did at Aston Villa, because I think in him you've got a player. I think there are only 2 other players of that age. You were mentioning to me, what is it?
Yes, Lamine Yamal and Doué, which is, again, I know stats can be deceiving sometimes. I'm not saying Garnacho is better than Lamine.
No.
I'm not saying Garnacho is better than Desiree Doué. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying what happens at Man United is, again, we talk about the emotional investment and the anger and frustration and finger pointing. What happens is players have mishaps at the club and we just downplay their value outside of it. Yeah. Garnacho, terrible. Yes, he's liked some tweets he shouldn't like. He's had a few mishaps along the way. He's young. He's learning his way. But he's played an awful lot of football for Man United at a time when the senior pros, where were they? Anthony, bought in for big money, had some issues off the field, also didn't do what he needed to do on it. Jadon Sancho, under Eric Ten Hag, exiled, had a public spat with the manager through his through a message he typed in his notes on his iPhone and posted up.
Yeah.
Marcus Rashford played on the right hand side, so that Garnacho was a young kid coming and could get used to playing on the left. Rashford couldn't do it on the right, then we had to put him in. And the season before last, Alejandro Garnacho had to start 33, 34 games in a row. in his second season breaking through. So you're asking this kid to do everything.
It's all bleak at Manchester United.
Can we finish about Man United?
But next up, we're turning our attention to Liverpool and Newcastle, and two players in particular, Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes, 18+ speed, gambleaware.org.
Aguero, Solskjaer, Deeney, Watkins. Sure, you know all about those last-minute goals, but have you heard the one about the on-loan goalkeeper who saved his temporary employers from disappearing out the Football League and into almost certain financial oblivion? Back in 1999, Carlisle United, managed by Nigel Pearson, were fighting to stay in the Football League. Carlisle's finances were precarious with a capital P that season, leading to a scenario where, with 3 games to go, they had to ask the FA to sanction an emergency loan deal to bring in a goalkeeper. Swindon Town's Jimmy Glass arrived at the club. His efforts in his first 2 games earned the Cumbrians 2 draws. Those vital points meant that Carlisle went into their final game of the Division 3 season, now League 2, needing to beat mid-table Plymouth Argyle in front of their own fans and hope their relegation rival Scarborough didn't win against Peterborough at home. The game at the McCain Stadium finished 1-1, and with the same scoreline at Brunton Park deep into injury time, Scarborough's fans invaded the pitch en masse, believing their Football League status was secure, convinced they'd done enough to stay up. However, there'd be one more plot twist. Carlisle won a corner in the dying seconds, and up came Jimmy Glass. In one of those you couldn't make it up moments, Glass scored from a rebounded header and was promptly swamped by teammates and thousands of fans who quite simply couldn't believe what they'd just witnessed. As for Jimmy Glass, he became an overnight celebrity, but he never played for Carlisle again, and his playing career never really kicked on after that defining moment. He took on various jobs outside of football before finding his way back into the sport as player liaison officer at Eddie Howe's Bournemouth, and most recently the general manager at non-league Wimborne. Not the fairy tale ending to one of the most Hollywood moments in football, but the name Jimmy Glass will live on forever as the scorer of that goal, arguably the most important in any club's history.
Good evening, this is Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. I'm your host Max Scott, alongside me is Flex, and now we're turning our attention to what looks like it could become the transfer battle of the summer window, because Liverpool have told Newcastle they would be open to signing Alexander Isak if the Magpies change their mind about selling their star striker. talkSPORT understands that while no formal bid has been placed, Liverpool have indicated they would be prepared to make a British record £120 million offer for Isak if offered any encouragement. But the plot thickens, Flex, because while Newcastle are looking to get Frankfurt's Hugo Ekitike, who by the way looks like an absolute player, real threatening striker up top, they think that he can partner Isak. Liverpool are saying, well, if Isak's not for sale, we'll just go and buy your main target. I mean, talking about sort of like big boy moves. Yeah. Liverpool, I mean, we say it again and again, but they are sort of positioning, they're positioning themselves in that sort of, as champions, that we're staying here. We're not going to be getting knocked off our perch. We're going to sort of strengthen from a position of power.
It's brilliant what they're doing, and you have to take your hats off to them because, like you said, they're operating from a position of power, and they're trying to ensure that they stay at the top of English football. You know, they haven't just come back and won this Premier League and, you know, that was nice. They want to dominate, and that's the type of moves that they're showing me. What they've done with Florian Wirtz, smashing a transfer record, and then to basically just let Newcastle know, just in case you change your mind, we got 120 there if you want. We can open up negotiations at that. Yeah, if you want.
Do you think though that would Liverpool fans, and get in touch, Liverpool fans, 03717 223344 81089, would you be disappointed? Do you think Liverpool fans would be disappointed if they ended up getting Ekitike rather than Alexander Isak? Because Alexander Isak, we've been talking all show about Premier League proven players. Yeah. He is that. For me, he's one of the best in the world at what he does. And so, or do you think actually Liverpool are just using Ekitike almost as a bargaining tool, and they're saying, look, we're gonna get him. Newcastle, you need to be willing to accept some offers.
Yeah, I think it could work either way. I think Liverpool fans, yes, listen, the dream one, the one is Alexander Isak. Everybody understands that, but it shows that they're not resting on their laurels. Though they just move on to the next one. Hugo Ekitike is a massively exciting player, and Newcastle have been trying to sign him for the last couple of years as well. He's not someone they've just plucked out of nowhere as well. But for them basically saying, if we can't get Isak, we will just pivot and go to the next, and they've still got sales to make. I still think as a Liverpool fan, you'd still be quite comfortable in believing in what Arne Slot has done. I mean, with what he done last season, Arne Slot, it was ridiculous. It really was. We can talk about a lack of, title challenge from Arsenal, and, City fell away. And no, let's have it right. Liverpool by far the best team. Yeah. The most consistent team. They found various ways to win various different types of football matches. And I just love the adaptability of tactic. He's not just wedded to one particular style of playing. I've seen Liverpool go all guns blazing on the front foot. I've seen Liverpool in transition really good. I've seen Liverpool dominate possession. I've seen them score from set pieces. I've seen them win games from coming from behind and not being playing well and just nick it in the They had every single component, and then they've said, right, we're not resting on that. We're building on that. So I just think if you're a Liverpool fan, you trust the decision makers that if you're not going to get Alexander Isak, because let's face it, Newcastle United are going to say no. Yeah. And they should. They should. I think this is also, that's what I want to say, this is also a big opportunity for Newcastle United to prove that they want to operate like a big club. It's a chance for the Saudi ownership to prove to the Geordies, listen, we don't have to sell our best players. The big boys have come knocking. They're not just going to take one of our best players. We are the big boys now. We just beat Newcastle. We just beat Liverpool in the cup final. We can mix it with these guys, and they're not just going to come and sweep in and take our players. And we want to build upon this. And I think that's great for Newcastle to be able to do. To turn down 120 million. Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah, and fair play. Look, Newcastle want to make a statement, and they want to build something themselves and want to challenge for league titles. And so I agree, Newcastle should be sort of firmly rejecting those offers. But 120, 150 million even is a lot of money. Right, we're going to continue talking about Liverpool, but first we're heading back over to the Women's Euros, where the deadlock has been broken in that quarter-final. Ian Abrahams.
5 minutes into the second half, Norway 0, Italy 1. The goal had been coming in the first half. It's arrived early in the second. Cantona Toure in acres of space on the right-hand side, picked out a peach of a low ball into the middle. It might have gone in anyway, but 6 yards out, the captain Girelli, with the slightest of touches, take the ball into the back of the net, and Italy have the lead that their play so far has richly deserved. Don't forget, winners play either Sweden or England in the semi-finals. The game is live on talkSPORT 2, and we've had our first goal. Norway 0, Italy 1.
UEFA Women's Euro 2025 update on talkSPORT with McDonald's. Got Big McDonald's hunger? The new Big Arch is here. Available from 11 a.m. at participating restaurants.
Flex, when we talk about Liverpool, I mean, we're already talking about they've already broken the British record for in Florian Wirtz. Jeremy Frimpong, who looks like an absolutely wonderful player in that position, can do everything going forward and defensively. You know, arguably they're going to be strengthening in terms of, you know, Trent had lots of criticism, didn't he, about what he was doing when he was defending. Can you see any other Premier League club realistically challenging Liverpool for the title? Because they, you know, even if Arsenal get Gyökeres and Eze, City have spent a load of money sort of recently, but even so in the Club World Cup, they just looked a little bit leaky. Of course, Pep can sort that out, but still some of the same problems lingering around. Do you think we're going to have, you know, lots of people criticised the Premier League last season, that the bottom three was done. The race was done with ages to go. Liverpool, we knew they were going to win the title for months. They've gone and done it. The only real race was for Champions League. Do you think we're going to have another situation next year where Liverpool walk away with the league?
I'd like to think it'd be closer. I do. I think Arsenal, I think they're finally showing the intent needed. It's looking like, and there's still more business to be done. I think the Gyökeres one is going to be the needle mover for them. But I like you said, City, listen, the players that they have signed are really good players. You know, Reinders is a fantastic central midfielder. Ryan Cherki is scary, the quality that he possesses if Pep allows him to express himself. And Ait Nuri is a fantastic addition as well, but they still need work. And Chelsea, I agree. I think Chelsea have the potential to just be a little, like, you know, like a fly that a little kind of won't go away a bit. You're trying to just,
and you talk about winning the Club World Cup against PSG.
Yeah, it's
putting
big
on an absolute clinic in terms of how to deal with them. That is going to give such a young side a massive 100%. Boost of confidence and huge belief to go and do something. And João Pedro, by the way, you know, we said it about Matheus Cunha. He looks like he's got that swag, that aura. I feel the same about João Pedro. Has that look about him. He's slotted straight into Chelsea. Yes. And I just think, I look at the confidence that will give him. And I know that Chelsea fans criticised Enzo Maresca last season for playing down their title aspirations when they were right up there at the beginning of the season, and then it all went wrong. Yeah. I think Chelsea could be in a very similar situation. Yeah. And I'd like to think
that should be their expectation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look how much money they've spent.
Yeah,
and not just they've spent loads of money. They've also proven, you know, to a certain extent. I know it was one game against a really good team in PSG, but the way they did it proves there's something there. Yeah. Now, they do need a goalkeeper. They do need, you know, another centre-half, which is why I don't think the Premier League's going to be beyond them. They're not going to be, unless they address that.
Don't they? They need a nasty centre-back.
I think they'll do it. I think they'll go and address that. You know what, Chelsea? I think they'll go and address it. So I still have Liverpool down as favourites. You cannot look past their team. They managed to retain the services of Mo Salah and Van Dijk. Yes, they did lose Trent, but they've replaced them already. And you can see the intention of them is to still go really strong.
Yeah.
And I think that does send shockwaves to the rest. So, but I do think Arsenal will make a much stronger title challenge.
Particularly, you said there Gyökeres would be a needle mover.
Yeah.
I think Eberechi Eze.
Absolutely.
I think even more of a needle mover. I know we say Arsenal need a striker, and look, he scored 100 goals in 2 seasons. He's going to score goals for Arsenal. Yeah. He's going to score goals with the likes of Saka, with the likes of Martin Odegaard, Christian Norgard. Now, by the way, I think he's an absolute baller, underrated. Yeah. He's going to really fill in for, you know, Jorginho, who's gone, and he's going to fill in that position.
He's going to be quality.
I've forgotten about him. I mean, I feel like he's been an Arsenal player for about 5 years.
But you forget he's only just signed in inverted commas. Like, you know, he's only just got there. And he's a fantastic footballer. And then you look at the defenders that they've got with Mascara on his way in as well. More reinforcements. Arteta loves doing that. They've not got any problems at the back, and they've had to reshape the midfield, which they've done. Arsenal could be quite fruitful, mate. Honestly,
do you reckon if they don't win the league, say like they did at the start of last season, if they just go in, draw 5 of the first 12 games or whatever it was,
this is done already.
Do you think that Mikel Arteta loses his job at the end of the season if they don't win anything?
Depends on the context. I think it depends on. I know there's I know you talk about us, Arsenal fans get mocked for what phase are you in, phase 5, phase 6, and you still haven't won this and you still haven't won that. So there's an expectation that he should be winning something because they haven't even been getting to finals. But if Arsenal came second, 3 points behind Liverpool, and got to the Champions League final and lost, okay, they're trophyless, but you can't say that. And then there's no God-given right. I think you just need to see a real tangible push that you're looking like you're going to win. So technically, last season they got to the semi-finals the year before they got to the quarters, but the Premier League was the one. There was no challenge. So context is key, but the pressure is mounting for Arteta because then the conversation will go to, it's not we just need a striker, it's not we just need extra depth, Saka needs rest, it's we just need a manager who's going to get us over the line. It will pivot very, very quickly. So I think Arteta's got this year to make sure that the team looks like it has all the ingredients, then the spotlight's firmly on him.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And as there is at every club, but there is a section of Arsenal fans
they're waiting.
That are very impatient, and that they'll be willing to call for Mikel Arteta's head if they think that
some already are. Some Arsenal fans Ben you speak to think he should be gone already.
Absolutely.
I think that's a little bit harsh, but I do think you're getting into sort of last chance saloon.
Yeah. Right, next up, we'll run through more transfers of the day and hear from England's Lucy Bronze ahead of their quarter-final tomorrow night. Absolutely massive game for the Lionesses and Serena Wiegman. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes, 18+, begambleaware.org.
Fearless Lionesses are going to Wembley after thrashing Sweden, the number 2 ranked, by 4 goals to 0.
When you come up against a team when you had a previous fixture like that, then you're always probably going to remember it. But I think so much has happened since, and 2 very different teams now.
James on the edge of the area. onto the left foot. Oh, yes! That's a majestic goal from England's Lauren James.
Dina is an incredibly powerful footballer.
Plays it through the middle towards Blackstenius. Goalkeeper caught in 2 minds. Blackstenius is in!
A hard player to play against in that respect.
Maybe the tough group stage will stand England in good stead going forward.
2 left-footed shots. It's 4!
We had to learn to be our proper England again straight away after that France game, and I think ready to bring that to the rest of the tournament.
Another shot at history for the Lionesses, and every kick right here on talkSPORT.
Yeah, can't wait for that one. Serena Wiegman and the Lionesses going for back-to-back Euros glory. Remember, England versus Sweden, that quarter-final will be live on talkSPORT tomorrow from 8 p.m. Adrian Durham will be your host from 7. Now, we're going to hear from Lucy Bronze in a moment, but we need to head back to the other quarter-final. There's been a huge moment, Ian Abrahams.
There has. Norway 0, Italy 1, but what a golden chance for Norway to get back into the game and level it. They were given a penalty. Hegerberg pulled down by Linari inside the penalty area from a corner, and Hegerberg, their captain, who missed on the opening night of the tournament woefully against Switzerland, has done it again. She went for the bottom left-hand corner in terms of where the goalkeeper was diving. Keeper did go the right way, but it was at least a yard, maybe 2 wide of the post. It was an awful penalty from someone who's been a great player for Norway. Cantore's also had a goal disallowed for Italy, who do lead here. Remember, the winners will play either Sweden or England. The game is live on talkSPORT 2, but Norway have missed a golden chance to get level. Norway 0, Italy 1.
UEFA Women's Euro 2025 update on talkSPORT with McDonald's. The new and iconic Big Arch has landed at McDonald's, featuring an unbeatable lineup of juicy beef, cheddar cheese, and its very own signature sauce. Available from 11 a.m. at participating restaurants.
Right, sticking with the Women's Euros, talkSPORT caught up exclusively with Lionesses defender Lucy Bronze ahead of their European Championship quarter-final clash against Sweden tomorrow night. Of course, that's live on talkSPORT. And Bronze shared her thoughts on past encounters with the Swedish side and how the team is preparing for this crucial match.
The difference now is it's knockout football. Those previous meetings were the Nations League in a tough group. Now we're talking about a Euros quarter-final where more's on the line. I think we just have to be more clinical. When I think about those 2 games, especially the one away in Sweden, I think we could have been up maybe 3 or 4 by the half-time, and we just weren't quite as clinical as what we could have been. I think we've shown in the last 2 games that we can do that. So hopefully kind of just mashing those together brings out the best in us and brings out the performance that we need to win.
Yeah, confident Lucy Bronze speaking there, representing the Lionesses. Of course, it didn't get off to a good start, but Serena Wiegman's got them back into shape. And I'm telling you now, I reckon we're going to have back-to-back Euros winners, not just in the under-21s, but with the Lionesses. Right, before the break, we were talking about Liverpool and, of course, that fight for Alexander Isak, Hugo Ekitike. If not, they're really flexing their muscles at the minute. Mark, the Liverpool fan, is on the line. Mark, what do you make of it? Do you seriously think that you can break the British transfer record fee back-to-back in the summer?
I think, to be honest with you, it'd be a great addition to the squad. But it's like we're in the Premier League. Are Newcastle really going to relinquish the reins on a top player to one of their rivals? Because they know how much is needed. So it would be an amazing acquisition for us in our squad. Unfortunately, in light of what's recently happened to Diego Jota, and that was truly devastating to the club and football fans alike who appreciate his qualities and talents. But that aside, as difficult as it is, it would be amazing if we could get him. And I really believe that he would fill a void and definitely make an amazing impact with the front line and the midfield that we've created.
Yeah, Mark, you're not wrong. I think that there's nobody out there that would say Alexander Isak. I think Alexander Isak would make any football team in the Premier League, in European football, wherever in the world, would make them a better team. Now, we're going to carry on talking about Liverpool's transfer news, some other stuff coming out of Chelsea, but there has been a goal in that quarter-final. Ian Abrahams.
65 gone, Norway 1, Italy 1, so the Norwegians are level, and Hegerberg, who produced an awful penalty 5 minutes ago for Norway. The captain has scored now. Ball played into the channel, right-hand side of the penalty area. The keeper came out at speed, but she held her nerve, got it past the keeper, and the ball trickled into the back of the net. Game on again. Winners play either Sweden or England in the semi-finals. It's live on talkSPORT 2. It's Norway 1, Italy 1.
UEFA Women's Euro 2025 update on talkSPORT with McDonald's. Got Big McDonald's hunger? The new Big Arch is here. Available from 11 a.m. at participating restaurants.
Yeah, all to play for in that quarter-final between Norway and Italy, and Ian Abrahams will be keeping us updated throughout the rest of this show and the Sports Bar if necessary. Now, we've been talking about Liverpool flex just while we're on there. Last thing we'll say on it. I mean, I'm talking about the Euros. Harvey Elliott. Yeah. Absolute baller in the under-21s. He's the sort of player that you can't help but feel sorry for him that he happens to be in an absolutely world-class Liverpool side. Do you think that he should stick at Liverpool and try and push through, or do you think he needs to move elsewhere and get minutes?
I think that, listen, the fan in him, I know he adores Liverpool, but I think he's got to think about his career. He's that good. He deserves to keep playing. So obviously only Harvey Elliott can talk about that, but he's probably got aspirations of getting into the seniors. You know, you've seen what he's doing in the under-21s. He shouldn't be in that level. He's too good, and he should be playing week in, week out for, you know, I want to say in the Premier League, but for a top team, he's a top player. Can play on the right, can play as a 10, can play as an 8.
Defensively as well, he's got that dog in him that you want to see.
Oh my goodness, he works like nothing, and he is one of the players who, you know, doesn't kick up a fuss, doesn't kick up a stink, and anytime called upon, delivers. And I think it's time for him to, as a neutral outside looking in, I think it's time for him to go and spread his wings and become like the main man somewhere. I know you were sort of talking about, you know,
get him into
Forest,
get him in, Mr. Marinakis.
Dortmund were linked in January as well. So there'll be clubs interested, you know, maybe return back to Fulham, who knows? But you know, there's teams that will 100% be in for Harvey Elliott, and if Liverpool are looking to sell him, they'll be looking for 50 million easy, I think.
Oh, he's well
and he's absolutely worth that.
I mean, talk about sort of our players worth it. Bournemouth have signed Chelsea keeper Petrovic for 25 million quid. Now he's like he's their like third goalkeeper.
Yeah,
and I mean twofold. What do you think about that for Bournemouth? Because they've lost Kepa, who was absolutely class for them last year, but they've spent 25 million. Chelsea know how to work in a transfer window, don't they?
And this is right. Honestly, I've learnt my lesson. Me personally, I've not to laugh at Chelsea and question what are they doing. They don't have a clue, because they usually tend to get the last laugh. Yeah, the embarrassment or, you know, the bad results will last a couple of years and they look like they're in turmoil. But all of a sudden, they just push to start, and they're off again. And nobody talks about enough. No one talks enough about the players they sell. It's all about they've spent this, they keep doing this, they're stockpiling players.
Yeah.
The players that they sell, they're just quickly making it like they just pass through the club and all of a sudden have been sold for really good money. No one talks about it. And like, honestly, the work that they've done to raise funds in that way is brilliant. Petrovic really, before last.
By the way, just as a caveat, they have also sold their women's team off, and so in terms of balance, you're right. It is creative, and they're keeping clear of all the PSR guidelines. But no, you are right to make a point. They don't half sell players, and they seem to be selling most of them to Arsenal as well.
Yeah,
you know, and making a load of money for
it. Man United gave them 60-odd million quid for Mason Mount in the last year of his contract. Kai Havertz, £65 million. Even I saw Renato Vega. You know, remember he came straight through, gone to Juventus. You know, they just managed to do it all the time. Ian Maatsen. You know, there's just so many that just go through there. And look at Noni Madueke now as well. You know, they've doubled their money on him pretty much in a couple of seasons and a half. So it's no surprise that Chelsea keep finding ways to do this. But Petrovic, when he was playing season before last, he looked all right. Yeah, it looked like one of the ones where actually, you know, Sanchez having a tough time.
But there's a reason he's not out of looking.
100%. Yeah. And they're getting 25 million for a player who's completely surplus.
I know, fair play. Right, don't forget that from 10 p.m, comedian, actor and Arsenal fan Matt Lucas will be in the studio on the Sports Bar with Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy. You will not want to miss. That's absolutely blockbuster stuff. We'll recap the main transfer stories next. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. 18 plus speed, gambleaware.org. This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, Max Scott, alongside Flex. Aston Villa could be making moves in the market. talkSPORT understands that they're interested in Nicholas Jackson and Alejandro Garnacho. Ben Jacobs will join us to give us the latest. Brian in Burmo is stalling. What on earth is going on there? Flex will have his say. Noni Madueke to Arsenal is done, and the Isak Ekitike saga rolls on. Let's get into it. This is the Transfer Insiders. Right, let's start with the news this evening. talkSPORT is reporting that Aston Villa are finally doing something. They're showing interest in Nicholas Jackson and Alejandro Garnacho. talkSPORT's Ben Jacobs gives us the very latest on that.
Yeah, these are two players on Aston Villa's radar. Let's start with Garnacho. Manchester United are looking for an exit. Garnacho's preference is to stay in the Premier League. Nothing has developed with Napoli, despite the fact in January they were seriously looking at that as a possibility. United's asking price has been around £60 million. I think the likes of Villa and other potential suitors feel it may drop as the window goes on. And Villa, of course, are looking to strengthen on the left side. And the difference between Rashford and Garnacho is Villa feel Garnacho may be a bit more open to engage with suitors that don't specifically have Champions League football next season, whereas Marcus Rashford is leaning towards going abroad and wants Champions League football now, especially in a World Cup year. Then Nicholas Jackson is an interesting case. Chelsea's perspective is very much they see Liam Delap, Nicholas Jackson, João Pedro Castro as part of their front line. But if there's a situation where the money's just too good to turn down for Nicholas Jackson and Christopher Nkunku departs as expected, then Chelsea may move in the market for another attacker. I was always told that Benjamin Sesko was taken off the radar because he was too similar to both Jackson and Liam Delap. But obviously, if Jackson departs, let's wait and see if Chelsea change that perspective. They like Morgan Rogers. They still have Garnacho on their radar, which might seem odd given Jamie Gittins has joined, but Giovanni Quenda, the other player that they're looking at as a long-term left winger, doesn't arrive for another year. So Chelsea could add another attacker, and it might be that Nkunku and Jackson go, but the difference is Nkunku feels almost definite that they'll entertain offers, whereas Jackson is appreciated by Enzo Maresca. But at the right money, Chelsea might consider bids, and you've got Villa, Milan, and even potentially Manchester United all exploring Nicholas Jackson on the player side and internally, but no bids yet to Chelsea.
Flex, Nicholas Jackson, Alejandro Garnacho strikes me as players that the selling clubs would feel like, yeah, we're happy to get rid of those players. But considering that Aston Villa had Marcus Rashford and Asensio, who, by the way, I thought was tearing it up in the Premier League and in the Champions League, is it an upgrade? Is it an upgrade for Villa? Is it the sort of transfer that gets them excited?
I think it'll be good business. I do, because you look at Asensio and Rashford, okay, the ceilings and the name of those two players, but essentially they were just passing through, if you get what I mean. They wasn't there for a long time, was they? And it was always looking like those two players wanted to go on to, no disrespect to Villa, but what they deemed to be bigger things. Marcus Rashford wants to play in the Champions League, etc. I think they were just sort of reset markers for them. Just staying with Alejandro Garnacho, I think he'll be excellent under Ruben.
I think it'll be another example of like an Anthony who left Manchester United and he flew.
Yeah, I think Villa fans would actually take to him in terms of his work rate, his desire.
He's already been wearing an Aston Villa shirt.
He's already been wearing, so they've had a look at what he can look like in a Villa shirt. I think some Villa fans might be a bit underwhelmed by it, but I think actually, again, in the whole "In Unai We Trust" vibe, he's got such a great record of improving players and also getting transfers right. So if he did go for these two, in Jackson and Garnacho, if I was a Villa fan, I would be like, I trust Unai.
Yeah,
I trust what he's going to do
to bring the best out of him. And you talk about bringing the best out of a player. There's no doubt that Nicholas Jackson can be an absolute nuisance. He's strong. Yeah. He's got pace. He can finish, but not as consistently. But you talk. He has the ingredients to be a top Premier League striker. He has scored goals for Chelsea. It's not as if he's gone on a huge long drought.
14 Premier League goals in his first season and 10 in his second.
Exactly. And so I sort of look at it and think, again, under Unai Emery, who seems to be able to get the best out of players, that could turn out to be a really good sign.
And the way Villa play, as well. They're on the front foot. They're high pressing. He wants his strikers to be on the last line. That suits Nicholas Jackson. And in terms of his wingers, he wants them. Sometimes I know he might play McGinn out there or Rodgers, but when Rashford was there, it was high and wide. Get the ball to him, let him get his man. We attack, we go fast. And I think those two players could really, really suit the style. Nicholas Jackson, it's a weird one because I'm like, I don't know if I'd have him at United. I'm not really sure. But then I look at if he went to Villa,
and then you think,
I think that would probably work. So, but listen, if they kept Ollie Watkins and got in Nicholas Jackson, that's fantastic options to have. But again, I don't know. I think Villa fans might be a little bit underwhelmed. I'm not sure.
Flex, we've been skirting around Manchester United a little bit. I mean, I want to get your take on this. It's clear that the Mbeumo deal is close, but crucially, it hasn't happened yet. No. How do you feel about how the window's going? How do you feel about the way that the Bryan Mbeumo deal has been handled? talkSPORT understands that United are not willing. Gone are the days, it seems, of paying over the odds for players, that Manchester United tax, and they're not going to be taken for fools. Do you appreciate that approach? And how do you feel about the whole Mbeumo stuff dragging on?
I do, but it has to be in context. You've already committed the best part of a 65 million package. So if the discrepancy is between 5 million, you obviously really want the player and it's a big outlay. And, you've got a few million quid more through selling Anthony Elanga and Alvaro Carreras to Real Madrid. So for me, I think you've come this far tracking him for
exactly.
6.
It's been going on for. It's been dragging on.
And clearly he's the one you want. Yeah. He's the one that Ruben Amorim wants. And listen, it'd be a fantastic addition. I'd really, really want this to happen. I think it will. I'm now in the mindset of pre-season starting, pay the money. Because this isn't like an outlandish amount more. It doesn't. They're quite close in valuation. It's just a bit of posturing now of, who wants to blink first or nobody wants to give in.
Yeah.
And I think something will have to give, and Man United are going to be patient on it. But it's at the detriment of what? Is it better to just pay £3 to £4 million more or £5 million more, and you get him in so he can start working and get used to what's going on, or you wait? All of a sudden we've played Arsenal, we've played Burnley, and then we've had 2 games on the league season, and then he's still not here. I don't know, just to save a few million quid. For me, I'd rather see them just push and get the deal done.
I know, and you look at who Manchester United have got at the start of the season. I mean, you look at those fixtures, Flex.
Yeah.
You've got your pre-seasons, but you start the Premier League. I mean,
home to Arsenal.
Home to Arsenal. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely astonishing. You've got Arsenal, Fulham away, very difficult game.
Exactly.
You've got Burnley, then you've got City away,
then
Chelsea at home, Brentford away. We don't know what they're going to be like, and then a couple of games after Liverpool.
Right.
And so you need to get these players bedded in. But I mean, look, it seems to me that deal is going to get over the line. Obviously, you want that to happen sooner rather than later. In terms of other players and in terms of sort of where else United need to strengthen, Emi Martinez has been linked.
Yeah.
Ollie Watkins has been linked. Estupiñán from Brighton. Does it fill you with excitement, those players? Do you think that realistically you can get them over the line? Or is that going to be your lot? Matheus Cunha and Brian Burma, and we're done?
It can't be. And if that is, it's a catastrophe waiting to happen. Like, we can all see that. You don't get to finish 15th and be like, well, we'll get 2 players, that'll be fine. And the rest will just improve. No, it's not going to happen. Man United needs major surgery. What I have understood is that we are not in a position anymore to look at the real glamorous top-end names in terms of, world-class players. We're not in a position to attract world-class players, or it's very difficult to. We're in a position where we can probably buy from around us, i.e. Wolves, Brentford, Palace.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of teams that finished above Man United last year. So that's the aisles we're shopping in. What I've dropped is that Man United arrogance of, we're Man United, we can't be getting Mateta. Oh, we're Man United, we can't be getting Ollie Watkins.
Well,
we used to have Andy Cole. We used to have Van Nistelrooy. Forget that. Like, we have to fill in the gaps of becoming a decent competitive team again before we challenge for the top honours. We're not just going to have to jump from where we are now back to the summit. We're not going to be able to do it.
But also, what's to say, by the way, that Jean-Philippe Mateta, who was unbelievable last season, what's to say that he couldn't become an Andy Cole?
Well,
what's to say he couldn't come to United and continue to pull up trees, start scoring some goals for you, because that was a huge problem last season. And all of a sudden, if you've got someone like Mateta, you've got Mbeumo over the line and Matheus Cunha and the goals that Bruno Fernandes gives you, all of a sudden you're banging in goals every week. Well, exactly. The list goes on in terms of the talent that you'd then have.
Yeah.
I just feel that Manchester United are a couple of signings away from finally being able to think, okay,
just be a
this
decent
is a fresh
outfit.
start.
Yeah, because that's what it is. We just have to become a decent outfit with some consistency. I'm not expecting miracles. I'm not expecting us to get top 4 next year. That's a big jump with the teams that are improving. We're not going to be able to do it. I don't believe we will. But what I want to see is vision. Not forget cups, because we always want to win them. But Carabao Cup, FA Cup, obviously, of course, want to have a great run in that. Want to win it. But if I'm honest, the most important thing to me next year for Man United is to visibly see a better team developing over 38 games, scoring more goals, obviously higher up the table, and seeing the vision start to come to fruition. Not this patchy, well, in the Cup when we played Arsenal, we managed to raise it then, and then, in the Carabao Cup, we got a draw against Newcastle, we did well against them, and then we beat Chelsea, but in the league, we're still terrible. No.
Isn't there an argument to say, in a sense, though, Flex, that regardless of who else you get in, they are professional football players. Yes, there's some deadwood in there. You want to get rid of it. You want to get rid of Rashford. You want to get rid of Sancho, Garnacho. I understand. But ultimately, you've got some well-paid football players in there that Ruben Amorim will have spent the entire pre-season with, putting them through their paces. So, surely, despite that, if you get Brian Mbeumo and that is it, there still needs to be, and the fans should expect a marked improvement regardless.
100%. We can't go and buy 22 new players.
Yeah.
You can't. So the players that, some players I think just probably won't get better just because I just don't think they're good enough. But you're expecting more from players like, Ahmad to continue that trajectory.
Absolutely.
Who's
absolute baller, mate. One
so
of your
good.
own. And also, one of your own that's come through Carrington that looks like he knows what it means, that looks like he cares about...
Well, we got him from Atlanta for a big fee.
But he's come through it, hasn't he?
He's taken... Yeah, what he did do was he's so patient.
Yeah.
Because we actually spent a lot of money on him when he hadn't done that much, and we're like, wow, we spent nearly 40 million on this kid.
Yeah.
But how patient he's had to be, and when he's got his opportunity, you can see, like you said, absolute baller. Lenny Yoro. Like, I want him to go from strength to strength. Look at Aiden Heaven. We bought him for £1.5 million from Arsenal. He looks good. Chido. Can Mason Mount stay fit and start to repay some of that 60 million?
We started off bleak, mate.
Yeah,
but there's some hope there.
Positive.
There's some hope, and I think that is consistent with the tradition of Manchester United to not just be able to bring in some good players like Mbermo and Cunha, but also rely on the boys that are there, the young lads that clearly want to represent Manchester United. So it's nice that we started off negative, and hopefully a little bit of a silver lining.
I appreciate that. I'm going to need it.
Absolutely right. Next up, we're going to focus on Arsenal and their business and the latest with Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike. Transfer Insiders here on talkSPORT. Now we turn our attention to Noni Madueke. It's our understanding here at talkSPORT that the deal is done. 52 million quid. Arsenal fan and broadcaster Harry Symeou gave us his thoughts.
Well, we've been hearing about Noni Madueke as an option for a while, but I don't think anybody really thought that Arsenal would move forward on that. And I certainly don't think anybody expected Arsenal to pay north of £50 million for him. I think it's a combination of things, Flex. Like when the link first came out, there was a part of me that goes, really? Noni Madueke, we're trying to level up here. Is he the answer? Is he the solution? And then you start to think about what Noni Madueke is as a player, and you think he's a dribbler and he's someone that breaks out of the system and can go and be spontaneous in the final third. He's got an eye for goal. He likes to cut inside and shoot with that left foot. And you think, actually, you know what, we could do with a little bit more of that. But when you factor in that he's coming from Chelsea again, which is a problem for Arsenal fans, by the way.
Is that a problem for you? Do you like they're helping out of Chelsea, or they're not that fussed that they're losing him? And you look at what happened with Havertz, or you look at other players that you've transferred in the past. Do you buy into that notion?
Not so much personally, but I can see why a lot of Arsenal fans feel that frustration, because there clearly is no rivalry at board level between these two clubs. There's nobody that they seem to negotiate better and more smoothly with than Chelsea these days. But from a fan's perspective, you don't want to be giving them money. You knew that they had to raise some money for UEFA sort of reasons over the course of the next couple of weeks. We've gone there, we've given them that money. It doesn't feel like Arsenal have tried to sort of negotiate at a more favourable price for the club. But then you read some of the reports that are coming out today, and my good friend Charles Watts reported this, and he said that Arsenal really do believe they've got a good deal in what they've paid for Noni Madueke. When you look at, for example, what Alanga's going for, what's being asked for Brian Mbeumo and others, and I kind of get that, but I think Noni Madueke is going to have to come in and he's going to have to hit the ground running. And if he does, I promise you, the legitimate Arsenal supporters out there will be behind him.
There's been some late drama in that quarter-final in the Women's Euros. What is the latest, Ian Abrahams?
A goal that might just win it for Italy. Norway 1, Italy 2, 30 seconds from the end of the 90 minutes. Cross came in from the left-hand side, and the skipper, Cristiana Chiarelli, with her second goal of the game, arriving at the far post, 4 yards out to head home. There's 4 minutes of added on time. We've played nearly 2 of them already. It looks like Italy will play either Sweden or England live on talkSPORT in the semi-finals. It's Norway 1, Italy 2, 2 minutes of added on time left.
UEFA Women's Euro 2025 update on talkSPORT with McDonald's. Got Big McDonald's hunger? Order the iconic new Big Arch on the McDonald's app. Available from 11 a.m. at participating restaurants.
That was talkSPORT's very own Harry Symeou giving us his analysis on all of the dealings in Arsenal's transfer window so far. I mean, Flex, we'll get into the specifics in a moment, but if you're an Arsenal fan, it must be a huge relief that it looks like, a bit like we've seen with Liverpool, that they are properly going for it in this window.
Yeah, they have to. There will still be a little bit sceptical because it's not announced yet. I think the Victor Gyökeres saga has been played out in public, and it's really messy. And actually, I think you can see why Arsenal and others were very reluctant to bid and to start entering into negotiations, because it was very volatile. You had the sporting director talking about, gentlemen's agreements that didn't happen. You got Victor Gyökeres, going AWOL saying, I'm not coming back. You've got the agent, etc. So it really is a tough situation. But actually, Arsenal, like they're going to be the winners out of this by getting somebody of Victor Gyökeres' quality for £55 million base fee is an absolute steal.
Almost the same price as Anthony Elanga to Newcastle. And I mean, this is a guy that scored 100 goals.
Same price as João Pedro.
Exactly.
For a proven goal scorer. And actually, when it was between Benjamin Sesko and Victor Gyökeres and they're sort of weighing up which one, I always felt as a neutral, Arsenal need the guy for right now. Yeah. Not a project striker, not somebody to nurture and to teach the lay of the land. No, they need someone who can come straight in now and hit the ground running, and I think that Victor Gyökeres is that.
We heard Harry talking about Noni Madueke. I mean, I must admit, I think that it's absolutely disgraceful that some Arsenal fans have been trying to petition the club, as if, by the way, the club are going to look at a petition and be like, oh, yeah,
we'll 4,000 signatures.
We'll not sign him anymore. I think that's such a poor way to welcome in a new signing. For me, he's not a world-class player. He's not a Lamine Yamal. He's not a Bukayo Saka. But he clearly thinks, I'm going to come into this club, I'm going to work for my place. And he, for me, he looks like a player who looks brilliant on the ball, can score goals, can hit the ball well, can pass the ball well. And under Mikel Arteta, who is good at blooding in young players, you look at Ethan Nwaneri, you look at Reece Nelson, I know he maybe is on his way out to Fulham, but Bukayo Saka, I think Arsenal fans should find reason to be really excited about that.
I don't know about really excited, if I'm honest, Max. I wouldn't say really excited, but I would say the stick that he's received, I do think is way too far. I think it just comes down to optics and order of ceremonies. And what I mean by that is just the way round they've done the business. If Arsenal would have started off with Victor Gyökeres announced as the first signing, then Zubimendi, and then Madueke, then Eze, I just think it changes how they see it. I think Arsenal's fans' worry was that they was about to not get Victor Gyökeres, not address the real position that they need, but you're going to give 50 million quid to Chelsea again for a player that you don't really... they need options, but is Madueke the one? But actually, I do take your point 100% in terms of they need cover for Saka. They do need alternatives. They do need depth. They do need somebody else to turn to. And he is improving. He's a young English player who is improving. And Mikel Arteta's track record of sort of turning around the fan base's perception on players. I remember when Aaron Ramsdale arrived there, why are we getting him? He's been relegated. Even David Raya from Brentford. Why are we even changing Ramsdale? What are we doing now? We're going to have two number ones, and it's going to be two. Now he's arguably the best keeper in the league after Alisson. When Ben White got there for 50 million from Brighton, 50 million. You know, even I know 25 million is not as much, but Leandro Trossard in that moment for what they needed as some backup, it worked. So there's time for Mikel Arteta. He will back himself to change the minds of Arsenal fans, and Noni Madueke will.
It's full time in the Women's Euros quarter-final, and talkSPORT's Ian Abrahams has been watching.
Norway 1, Italy 2. Italy through to their first semi-final since 1997. It will be against Sweden or England, and it's thanks to captain Cristiana Girelli. First of all, her first goal came 5 minutes into the second half after Italy had dominated the first. She was a quick 6 yards out to just tuck the ball home from Cantore's ball in, and then 30 seconds from the end, as it looked like we were heading to extra time, she headed the winner at the far post 4 yards out. But Norway will think of what might have been. Captain Hegerberg pulled down in the penalty area, missed her second penalty of the competition before eventually getting some redemption for that by getting Norway level, but they were never really able to build on that momentum, and Italy for the first time this century are through to the semi-finals of the European Championships. It will be against Sweden or England, who play live on talkSPORT tomorrow. It finished in Geneva in front of 26,000. Italy 2, Norway 1.
UEFA Women's Euro 2025 update on talkSPORT with McDonald's. Got Big McDonald's hunger? The new Big Arch is here. Available from 11 a.m. at participating restaurants.
And finally, Flex, we've got to talk about sort of the saga with Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike. I mean, it's a transfer merry-go-round, this. But what do we think of Liverpool sort of making such big moves? I mean, you've got to applaud them. Champions going for even more.
Yeah, power move, chess moves. Because they're basically saying... Our number one target is Isak, which is your most prized possession, but we'll give you a record fee for him. But if not, we're going to go and nick your number one target to join Isak, which is Hugo Ekitike. Yeah. So either way, Liverpool are in a stronger position. But Newcastle United aren't the biggest losers as everybody thinks as well, because they're actually able to make a statement to say, hang on a minute, you're not taking our best player. We are Newcastle United. We're looking to gate crash the top six. We're back in the Premier League. We're back in the Champions League. Yeah. We've won our first trophy in, God knows how long. We're ready to really take this thing seriously and start becoming a proper team to gate crash. So no, you can't nick our players. We're Newcastle United and we're here to stay.
Absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Alexander Isak, and for me, it looks like one of those things whereby nobody really thought that someone was going to come in with a British record fee this transfer window. Arsenal fans were clamouring for it. There's been potential links to Liverpool, but just in the past couple of days, this has heated up a little bit, hasn't it? And it just strikes me as this could be one of those things that moves very quickly. Yeah. That potentially, even if it's in a week, 2 weeks' time, maybe we're going to start hearing, actually, this is happening. Newcastle are willing to let him go for, let's say, £150 million. And then all of a sudden, Liverpool are in a stronger position, but then equally, Newcastle can get Ekitike and still go on a run and try to win his domestic trophy.
I think he stays. I think he stays.
I would say.
I think, because I don't see him as someone who's going to agitate for a move either as well. So I think he's got the Champions League. His price is still going to be happy. Next year, he's got 2 years left. He's got 3 years left at the minute. So he's in a comfortable position.
They're in no rush.
See how it goes in the Champions League, and then they can still sell him for 100 at least again next year. The value's not going to drop that much.
Absolutely. Remember, of course, talkSPORT is going to be across that entire transfer window. You can keep up to date on everything, particularly on the live blog at talksport.com. This has been the Transfer Insiders. Don't forget, you can get the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.